Hey guys, tonight we are going to travel back. Way back. Further than any king or pyramid, further than the invention of writing or farming. We're going back to a time when the world was younger, wilder, and immensely more dangerous. Imagine for a moment that you aren't in your comfortable bed, but lying on a pile of furs inside a shelter built from the bones of a giant. The air you're breathing is colder and cleaner than any you've ever known, and the great silence of the pre-dawn world is broken only by the whistling of the wind across a vast frozen steppe. You are, for the purposes of our journey tonight, a caveman, or more accurately, a Paleolithic human, and your day is about to begin. And just as a little reality check before we get too comfortable with the idea, your chances of surviving the next 24 hours are, let's be honest, probably not great. The skills required to just make it to the next sunrise are so far removed from our own that it's almost comical. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm. That long-form, serious educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. And as always, I love to see where you're all tuning in from. Go ahead and post your city or country and the local time in the comments. It's always amazing to see this global community coming together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. There is no alarm clock. There is no gentle nudge from a partner. The thing that pulls you from the heavy, dreamless sleep of exhaustion is the cold. It's a profound, biting cold that has crept in through the hides of your shelter and seems to be seeping directly into your bones. You lie still for a moment, curled tightly under a pile of furs. Deer, wolf, maybe even the thick, shaggy pelt of a young cave bear. Your body instinctively knows this cold. It's the ancient enemy, the ever-present threat that dictates the rhythm of your entire existence. You are not in a dank, dripping cave, by the way. That's a common misconception we can discard right away. Your home, your entire world for this season, is a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering. You are inside a circular structure framed by the colossal curving ribs of woolly mammoths, their bases firmly planted in the frozen earth. Interlocking tusks form a dramatic arched doorway, currently covered by a heavy hide flap to keep out the worst of the wind. The sheer ingenuity of it is something you take for granted, but it's the only reason you and the 24 other people sleeping around you survived the last blizzard. A low groan escapes someone across the hearth, an elder, his joints aching with the damp chill. Otherwise, the only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing of your family, your clan. You can smell them. The familiar, greasy scent of unwashed bodies, the smoky perfume that clings to every person and every object, and the faint, coppery tang of old blood from the last successful hunt. It's not unpleasant. It's the smell of safety. It's the smell of home. But another scent is missing, and its absence is what truly woke you. The smell of active smoke. Your eyes open, adjusting to the deep gloom. In the center of the hut is the hearth, a shallow stone-lined pit that is the heart of your community. And right now, its heart is barely beating. All that remains of last night's roaring fire is a small, precious mound of silvery ash with a faint, pulsing cherry-red glow at its core. This right here is the first and most important challenge of your day. Everything else, finding food, finding water, avoiding being found by a saber-toothed cat, all of it comes second to this, because if that last ember dies, the cold will win. Starting a new fire is a laborious, uncertain process involving friction and prayer, and a significant amount of swearing that hasn't been invented yet. It can take an hour, burn precious energy, and if the available tinder is damp, it might not work at all. So, you don't let it die. Ever. You slide silently from your warm nest of furs, the frozen ground a shock to your bare feet. You are acutely aware of the others sleeping around you, their bodies huddled together for shared warmth. You move with a practiced stealth, a grace born of a life lived in close quarters. At the edge of the hearth is the tinder bundle, a collection of the driest, finest materials your group possesses. Shredded birch bark, cattail fluff, and a special type of fungus, what future scientists will call amadou, or tinder fungus, which can hold a spark for hours. Archaeologists will one day excavate hearths just like this one, finding layers of ash built up over generations, a silent testament to this very ritual. They'll analyze the charcoal fragments and pollen records to determine not only what you burned, but what season it was when you burned it. For you, it's just life. You take the gentlest pinch of tinder and lean over the embers, your face illuminated by their faint, warm light. You purse your lips and blow, not a hard puff of air, but a long, slow, steady stream. It's an art form, a type of respiratory CPR for the dying fire. For a terrifying second, nothing happens. The glow seems to dim, and your stomach tightens. The entire fate of your clan rests in this single breath. Then a tiny, almost invisible wisp of smoke curls up from the ash. You blow again, more confidently this time, and a small, bright orange spark jumps to life in the tinder. It wavers, threatening to vanish, then catches. A fragile golden flame, no bigger than your thumbnail, flickers into existence. You feel a wave of relief so profound it's almost dizzying. You've done it. You've cheated the cold for one more day. You carefully feed the new flame, adding twigs and then larger pieces of split, dry wood from the precious stockpile kept inside the hut. The fire takes hold, its hunger growing. The single flame becomes a small dance of light, pushing back the oppressive gloom and, more importantly, the bone-deep chill. The growing warmth radiates outwards in a slowly expanding circle of comfort, a tangible wave of life. And as it does, the clan begins to stir. This is the true dawn inside the mammoth bone house. It's not the sun, still hours from cresting the frozen horizon, but the rebirth of the hearth that signals the start of the day. The light flickers across the faces of your people, revealing them in brief, soft-edged portraits. Over there, a young mother, barely more than a girl, shifts in her sleep, pulling a thick bearskin tighter around the tiny, bundled form of her infant. Near the entrance, a cluster of young men, the prime hunters of your group, lie sprawled in the exhausted sleep of youth. And closest to the fire, propped against a smooth boulder that serves as a heat sink, is the old woman. Her eyes are open, and she is watching you. There is no smile, no word of praise. There doesn't need to be. Her gaze, deep set in a face like a wrinkled map of a long and difficult life, holds a quiet approval. You've done your duty. You've kept the heart of the clan beating. This is your family, your entire world. The 27 people sharing this space are a complex web of kinship. That young mother is your cousin. The hunters are your brothers and nephews. The old woman is your grandmother's sister, the keeper of stories and remedies. Anthropologists of the far future will categorize this as a hunter-gatherer band, the fundamental social unit for 99% of human history. They'll debate the precise kinship structures, whether you traced descent through your mother or father. But for you, the reality is simple. These are the only people you can rely on to survive. The group is a living organism, each part essential. The strong legs of the hunters are worthless without the old woman's memory of where to find medicinal herbs. The sharp eyes of the children, who can spot a hare hiding in plain sight, are as vital as the skilled hands of the man who can turn a worthless rock into a deadly spear point. More people begin to wake. A chorus of low coughs, the rustle and creak of leather and fur, a sleepy grunt. There are no cheerful good mornings. It seems the concept of a morning person had yet to be invented. Communication is sparse and functional, much of it non-verbal. You see a man gesture towards his throat, and then towards the corner where the water skins are kept. His wife, without a word, understands and gives a slight nod. A whole conversation. "I'm thirsty. We'll need more water soon," transpired in 2 seconds of silence. In a world where a loud voice could attract the wrong kind of attention, and before language had evolved into the complex, nuanced tool it would one day become, this shared understanding of gesture and intent is paramount. You live in such close proximity, your lives so deeply intertwined, that you can often anticipate each other's needs before they are ever spoken. The oldest man in the clan, his hair a shock of white against his weathered skin, slowly pushes himself to his feet. Every movement is stiff and deliberate. Skeletal analysis from this period often reveals individuals who lived well into their 40s or 50s, a testament to the group's ability to support its elders long after their peak physical strength had faded. He ignores the waking chatter and walks to the heavy hide flap covering the entrance. With a deep grunt of effort, he pulls it aside, and the outside world floods in. It's a shock to the system. A blast of frigid, razor-sharp air slices into the warm fug of the hut, and the pre-dawn light is a stunning, ethereal blue against the endless white of the snow-covered steppe. He stands there for a long moment, a dark silhouette against the vast landscape, his head tilted back. He isn't just looking. He is reading the world. He sniffs the air, tasting its moisture content, gauging the direction and strength of the wind from the way it bites his skin and whispers through the giant bones of the hut. He is a master meteorologist. His senses, his only instruments, and his forecast will determine the fate of the day. Finally, he turns back, letting the heavy hide fall and seal you all back inside the relative warmth. He speaks, his voice a low rumble. He uses only a few words, but everyone understands. The wind is coming from the north. The sky is clear for now, but snow is coming. Not today, but soon. The deer will be seeking shelter in the low valleys. It's a complete intelligence briefing. With the day's conditions established, attention turns to the first meal. There is no pantry, no neatly organized shelf of options. The old woman reaches into a stiff leather bag stored in a cold corner and pulls out a chunk of dark, dried meat, hard as a rock. It's from a horse, killed weeks ago and preserved by being smoked over the fire and then frozen. She uses a sharp flint flake to shave off thin slivers, which she passes around. You chew on your piece, the smoky, gamey flavor slowly filling your mouth as your saliva softens the tough fibers. Someone else passes around a handful of dried rowan berries, their sharp, sour taste a welcome contrast. This is it. A few hundred calories to fuel the morning's work. It's not much, but it's enough. The food is shared without ceremony, each person taking a small portion, ensuring that even the youngest and oldest get their share. This simple act of passing food from hand to hand is the glue that holds your world together. It is a ritual of trust, a quiet promise that as long as there is food, everyone will eat. With the brief meal concluded, the day's work begins not with a rush of activity, but with a quiet, informal council around the fire. This is the Paleolithic equivalent of a morning stand-up meeting, though with slightly higher stakes than hitting quarterly targets. The old man who read the sky elaborates on his forecast, his words painting a picture of the world outside. The hunters who were out 2 days ago share their observations. They mention seeing the tracks of a large bison herd moving east, but also the unsettlingly fresh prints of a cave lion near the frozen river. A woman adds that the last of the hardy winter berries on the southern ridge should be ripe for picking, a small but vital source of sweetness and nutrition. It's a fluid exchange of information, a pooling of collective knowledge. There is no single chief barking orders. Leadership here is earned, situational, and respected, not demanded. The most experienced hunter leads the hunt. The woman with the deepest knowledge of plants leads the gathering. Your society is a complex dance of pragmatism. Based on this shared intelligence, a plan solidifies. The deer in the low valleys are the most promising target for a major hunt. A small party will be dispatched. But today, the group splits in a way that defies the simple caricatures of your era. It is not just the men who rise to prepare for the hunt. Your sister, known for her endurance and the uncanny way she can read the subtle signs of a nervous herd, will go with them. She is as skilled with a spear as any man in the clan. Meanwhile, one of the most celebrated hunters, an older man with a slight limp from a past encounter with a woolly rhino, will stay behind. His task is no less vital. He will spend the day in the relative warmth of the shelter, patiently shaping new spear shafts from a stock of seasoned birchwood, and more importantly, he will be teaching this crucial skill to a handful of adolescents who watch his every move with rapt attention. Archaeologists and anthropologists will one day hotly debate the degree of gender equality in your society. But the evidence from burials and skeletal remains suggests a world built less on rigid roles and more on individual skill, practical contribution, and mutual respect. Before any groups can depart, however, the first and most pressing chore must be addressed: water. The water skins, crafted from the cleaned and sealed stomachs of deer, are nearly empty. A small group is designated for the water run. It's seen as a routine task, but no journey outside the shelter is ever truly safe. You are part of this group. You and 2 others begin preparing, pulling on outer layers of hide and fur, strapping on sturdy leather boots insulated with dried grass. The cold is a physical enemy, and you dress for battle. You gather the limp, empty water skins. The thought of the icy, life-giving water a powerful motivator. The destination is a spot downriver where the current runs fast enough to keep a small patch of water from freezing over completely. It's a half-hour walk each way, a journey through a landscape that is simultaneously beautiful and terrifying, where you are both a predator and potential prey. But before you step out into that vast blue-white world, there is one final personal ritual that every adult performs: the tool check. Your life depends not on brute strength, but on your technology. Your tools are extensions of your will, and they have to be perfect. You pull your primary tool from its sheath on your hip. It's a knife, but not one of steel. It's a beautifully crafted blade of grey flint, the result of a dozen generations of accumulated knowledge. You run your thumb gently over its edge, a foolish habit, as it is literally sharp enough to shave with, and inspect it in the firelight. You remember the day you made it, the feeling of the final decisive strike that detached it from its core, creating this perfect leaf-shaped point. You see a tiny new nick near the tip, probably from when you were helping to joint that horse carcass last week. It's still serviceable, but you make a mental note to touch it up tonight, to pressure flake the edge back to razor sharpness. Around you, others are doing the same. A hunter tests the sinew bindings that hold a barbed antler point to his spear shaft, using a special glue made from birch bark tar, a prehistoric superglue of astonishing strength. A woman examines her scraper, a simple but essential tool for processing hides, its worn, rounded edge a testament to hours of hard work. This constant maintenance is second nature. Your tools are your survival, your companions. Use where analysis performed by scientists in the distant future will examine microscopic scratches and polish on artifacts like these to determine exactly how they were used. One pattern for cutting meat, another for scraping wood, another for slicing reeds. To them, it's data. To you, it's the quiet, intimate knowledge of your own hands. Satisfied that your equipment is ready, you give a nod to the others in the water party. The heavy hide flap is pulled aside once more. The cold air rushes in, a bracing shock. You take a deep breath, and together you step out of the familiar warmth of the shelter and into the great, silent wilderness of the Ice Age. The world that greets you is one of immense, stark beauty. The air is so thin and clean it feels like it could shatter. After the smoky dimness of the hut, the sheer scale of the landscape is overwhelming. You are standing on the Mammoth Steppe, the single largest ecosystem of the last Ice Age. A vast, semi-arid grassland that stretched from modern-day France all the way to the Yukon. It's not a uniform blanket of white. The recent snow is just a light dusting over a world of pale yellows and muted browns, the dormant grasses of winter. The ground is frozen solid, and each step you take makes a sharp, cracking sound that seems incredibly loud in the profound silence. Above you, the sky is a pale, luminous blue, and it feels impossibly high, impossibly vast. In the far distance, you can see a small, dark line moving slowly against the horizon. It's a herd of wild horses, their shaggy coats protecting them from the cold. To your left, the curve of the frozen river glitters, and beyond it, a jagged outcrop of rock rises from the plain like the tooth of some long-dead beast. This is your map. You carry no paper, no compass. Your navigation is a complex tapestry of memory, observation, and ancestral knowledge woven directly into your mind. That rock outcrop is known as the Bear's Tooth. It marks the spot where a great cave bear was killed by your grandfather. The skeletal remains of a small grove of birch trees to the south are the Whispering Sisters, their rustling leaves in the summer warn of a coming storm. The curve of the river, the shape of the distant hills, the direction of the wind. These are your coordinates, a mental jeep far more sophisticated than any you can imagine, because it is alive, constantly updated with new information. Cognitive archaeologists of the future will debate how these intricate mental maps were stored and passed down, whether through story, song, or perhaps even markings on bone. But for you, it is as natural as breathing. You know this land not as a place you live on, but as a place you live with. It is a part of you. While the hunting party has turned west, heading for the low valleys, your group, a mix of 3 women, an older man, and 2 adolescents, turns south. You are the gatherers, and you are not wandering aimlessly, hoping to stumble upon something edible. Your journey is as purposeful as the hunters. The woman leading your small party, your aunt, is heading for a very specific place that she remembers from the last winter. It's a sheltered hollow, protected from the worst of the wind, where the soil is softer and a particular kind of starchy, edible root, a bit like a wild carrot or a parsnip, tends to grow in abundance. Finding it is a test of memory and keen observation. She is looking for the plant's dead, withered stems, almost invisible against the brown earth, the only clue to the treasure that lies hidden beneath the frozen ground. Your toolkit for this expedition is a testament to simple design. You carry a bag made from the hide of a reindeer, the fur turned inwards for insulation. Your aunt has a large, beautifully made basket slung over her back, woven so tightly from willow shoots that it can hold even the smallest seeds. The existence of advanced weaving is one of the great hidden stories of your time. Future scientists will find tiny fragments of burnt clay with the clear impression of woven textiles, proving that you and your people had mastered fabrics, nets, and baskets thousands of years before the invention of pottery or agriculture. This string revolution was every bit as important as the development of stone tools, yet it's nearly invisible in the archaeological record because organic materials so rarely survive. And then there's the most important tool of all, the digging stick. It's nothing more than a stout, straight branch, its tip sharpened and hardened in the embers of the fire. It looks primitive, laughable even. But this simple implement is the key that unlocks the subterranean larder of the earth, providing the reliable day-to-day calories that the high-risk, high-reward hunt cannot always guarantee. It is the humble foundation upon which your survival is built. You walk on, a small, determined group in a vast, open world, your eyes scanning the ground, reading the subtle language of the winter landscape. After another hour of steady walking, your aunt stops. She scans the ground in the sheltered hollow, her eyes narrowed in concentration. To you, it looks like a random patch of frozen, uninteresting earth. To her, it's a page in a vast, living encyclopedia. She points with her digging stick to a tiny, brown, withered sprig of leaves, barely visible against the dirt. This is it. This is the sign. You and the others spread out, your own eyes now trained to find that specific, humble shape. The knowledge your aunt possesses is staggering in its breadth and complexity. It's a science passed down not in books, but in whispers, demonstrations, and shared experiences from mother to daughter, elder to child, for thousands of generations. In her mind is a library of leaves, a detailed catalogue of every plant that grows in this territory. She knows that the root of this plant is rich in energy, but its berries, if eaten raw, will cause the stomach to cramp violently. She knows that the bright red mushrooms clinging to that fallen birch tree over there are a deadly poison, but the fuzzy lichen growing just beside them can be poulticed to stop bleeding. She knows that the inner bark of a particular willow can be chewed to ease a headache, and that a tea made from the flowers of a certain scrubby bush can calm a fever. This is not guesswork. It's a precise and tested body of knowledge. Ethnobotanists in the far future will debate whether this wisdom was accumulated through brutal trial and error, a process that must have claimed countless lives. or through a more systematic observation of what animals ate and avoided. Either way, the result is the same: a profound, life-sustaining intimacy with the natural world that your descendants will almost completely lose. Incredibly, this intricate knowledge leaves its own microscopic ghost in the fossil record. The proof will be found in the last place anyone would think to look: on the surface of your own teeth. The plaque that builds up on your teeth during your life, the stuff your distant descendants will be encouraged to scrape away, hardens into a substance called dental calculus. This calculus is a time capsule. It fossilizes, trapping microscopic particles of everything you eat, drink, and breathe. By analyzing the calculus on the teeth of your ancient relatives, scientists will find irrefutable proof of this botanical library. They will discover the starch grains of these very roots, the pollen of medicinal flowers like chamomile, and even the chemical traces of poplar wood, a natural source of the active ingredient in aspirin. They will see that your diet wasn't just a desperate scramble for meat, but a rich and varied menu, a testament to this deep, encyclopedic understanding. Your aunt finds a promising spot and begins to work. She uses the fire-hardened tip of her digging stick not as a shovel, but as a lever. The ground is hard, and it takes her full weight to break through the frozen crust. Once through, she works patiently, loosening the soil around the withered stem, careful not to snap the precious root hidden below. This is winter work. You know without thinking that this plant is only worth harvesting now, when the ground is cold. In the spring, all of the plant's energy will surge upwards to produce new leaves, leaving the root thin and woody. Your entire year is governed by this seasonal clock. Spring is for tender greens and shoots. Summer is a riot of berries and fruits. Autumn is the time for the hard labor of the nut harvest. Your life is a constant migration, not just across the landscape, but through the calendar, intercepting resources at their peak of nutrition and abundance. To miss the window for a key resource is to invite hunger into your home. One of the adolescents with you, a boy of about 12, points to a gnarled oak tree at the edge of the hollow. Acorns are scattered across the frozen ground. He makes a motion as if to gather them, but your aunt gives a sharp, subtle shake of her head. He knows acorns are food, but he doesn't yet know the whole story. Later, around the fire, she will explain it to him again. She will describe the slow, painstaking process of transforming those bitter, toxic nuts into food. You can't just eat them. First, you have to shell them. Then you have to pound them into a flour. And then, the crucial step, you must wash that flour again and again in boiling water, or leave it in a tightly woven basket in a running stream for days. This process leaches out the tannins, the bitter poisons that would otherwise rip your stomach apart. It is a complex, multi-stage chemical process, a true feat of Stone Age food science. It's the kind of knowledge that turns a landscape of limited options into a world of hidden abundance, but only if you know the secret. Your aunt finally frees a large, pale root from the earth, holding it up with a grunt of satisfaction. It's a good size. The work continues. As the baskets begin to fill with the hard-won roots, the work diversifies. Gathering is a misleadingly gentle term for what you do. It suggests a passive, leisurely activity. The reality is that you are opportunistic foragers, and the search for calories is relentless and multifaceted. While the adults focus on the laborious task of digging, the two adolescents move on to other duties. The boy heads towards a line of low-growing, scrubby bushes, where on your way here, he had set several simple snares made from twisted sinew. He moves with a quiet hopefulness, checking each one. The first is empty, the second too, but the third holds a prize, an Arctic hare, its neck caught cleanly in the loop, its white winter coat a stark contrast to the dark branches. It's a small victory, but a deeply satisfying one. This is a pound of precious meat and a soft pelt that will be invaluable for lining a boot or a mitten. The girl, meanwhile, has moved closer to the frozen stream. She uses a heavy, sharp-edged rock to break open the icy soil at the bank, exposing the dark, rich earth beneath. She is hunting for grubs and larvae, the dormant, fat, rich life hiding from the cold. To the sensibilities of your distant descendants, the idea of eating insects might seem repulsive, but to you, it is simply smart. Entomophagy, as it will one day be called, is a part of your diet. These small, wiggling morsels of fat and protein are a reliable and easily accessible food source, a perfect energy boost in the middle of a long, cold day. Every member of the group contributes, even in these small ways. Nothing is wasted, no opportunity is overlooked. It is in this moment of focused activity that the danger arrives, as it so often does, in complete silence. You are the first to sense it. It's not a sound or a sight, but a sudden primal prickling on the back of your neck, a change in the air. You slowly straighten up from your digging and lift your head, scanning the low ridge that overlooks your hollow. And there it is, a cave lion. It is immense, far larger than any modern lion, with a thick, shaggy coat the color of dried grass and no mane. It is simply standing there, about 100 yards away, watching you with a terrifying, intelligent stillness. The wind is blowing from it to you, which is why it was able to get so close without you smelling its sharp, musky scent. Instantly, without a word being spoken, your small group reacts. The adolescents abandon their tasks and scramble back to the adults. You bunch together, shoulder to shoulder, becoming a single, larger entity. Everyone freezes. No one runs. To run is to trigger the chase instinct, a fatal mistake. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs, but your outward movements are slow and deliberate. You and the others grip your digging sticks tighter, turning them from tools into rudimentary weapons. You pull the flint knife from your belt. You are not defenseless. You are not helpless prey. You are a group of intelligent, tool-wielding primates, and you will be a difficult, dangerous meal. The lion continues to watch, its head low, its tail giving a slow, almost lazy twitch. Paleontologists will one day debate the exact nature of these formidable predators. Were you a primary food source, a direct competitor for game, or were encounters like this rare, a tense negotiation of shared space? Right now, you are not interested in academic debate. You are locked in a silent, high-stakes standoff with an apex predator. Minutes stretch into an eternity. Finally, the lion seems to make a decision. It gives a great, breathy snort, turns its massive head, and walks calmly away along the ridge, disappearing as silently as it arrived. It has decided you are not worth the effort. The collective breath you've all been holding escapes in a ragged, shaky sigh. The immediate danger has passed, but it serves as a brutal and effective lesson for the youngsters. Your aunt points to the ridge, then to the direction of the wind, her gestures sharp and clear. Pay attention. Always know which way the wind is blowing. Always watch the high ground. This is your school, and the curriculum is survival. As the tension subsides, your aunt notices something else. She walks cautiously towards the ridge. her eyes on the ground. The lion's tracks are there, huge and clear in the thin layer of snow. But they are superimposed on another set of tracks, a trail of churned-up earth and massive, cloven hoofprints. Bison. A whole herd of them, and the tracks are fresh, no more than a few hours old. The lion was likely stalking them, and you just happened to be in the way. This is a discovery of immense importance. This is the kind of intelligence that can change the fortunes of your entire clan. You quickly finish your work, packing the precious roots and the snared hare into your baskets and bags. Your mission has changed. You came for roots, but you are returning with something far more valuable: news. You turn for home, your pace much quicker now, fueled by adrenaline and the urgency of your discovery. The weight of the harvest, which felt so satisfying just a few moments ago, now feels like a burden slowing you down. The baskets, laden with heavy, dense roots, dig into your shoulders. The boy carries the limp form of the hare, its soft white fur a startlingly bright patch in the muted landscape. The journey back is not a simple retracing of your steps. The encounter with the lion has sharpened the world, brought it into a terrifyingly clear focus. Every shadow seems deeper, every gust of wind sounds like a predator's breath. Your head is on a constant swivel, your senses straining to catch any hint of danger. You are reading the landscape with a renewed intensity. On the way out, you saw a flock of ptarmigan, their feathers mottled brown and white, pecking at willow buds. Now, on the way back, you see them suddenly explode into the air in a panic, scattering in all directions. Your group immediately freezes, crouching low, scanning the horizon for the cause. It could have been a fox, or it could have been something much larger. You wait, listening to the frantic beating of your own heart until the silence reasserts itself. You continue on, but the lesson is clear. The world is a web of conversations, and you must listen to them all. The anxious flight of a bird, the sudden silence of insects, the direction of a scent on the wind. These are all vital dispatches from the front lines of survival. To ignore them is to risk becoming a headline in the day's obituary. The information you carry now, the location of the fresh bison tracks, is a resource far more valuable than the roots in your basket. It is the thread that connects the two halves of your clan's daily effort. For a long time, scholars in the future will imagine your society as being split into two distinct spheres: the world of men, who hunt, and the world of women, who gather. But the reality of your life is far more fluid and interconnected. Your aunt, by finding these tracks and understanding their significance, has just become the most important hunter in the clan, and she hasn't thrown a single spear. The intelligence she provides will guide the hunter's strategy, save them hours or even days of fruitless searching, and dramatically increase their chances of success. Historians and archaeologists still argue whether men and women had entirely separate gathering and hunting spheres, or if the roles were far more integrated and flexible, shaped more by circumstance and individual skill than by rigid rules. The evidence of your own life, and the isotopic analysis of skeletons from your era which show similar diets between sexes, strongly suggests the latter. Survival for you is not a game of rigidly defined positions. It's a team sport where everyone plays where they are needed most. As you draw closer to the familiar territory around your camp, the tension that has kept you silent for the last hour begins to ease. You can see the faint wisp of smoke rising from your shelter, a reassuring beacon in the vast wilderness. The tight defensive formation of your group relaxes, and a low murmur of conversation begins. This is not idle chatter. You are processing what happened. Your aunt quizzes the adolescents about the lion encounter, making them recount what they saw, what they felt, and what they should have noticed sooner. It's a field debriefing, cementing the lesson in their minds. The boy talks excitedly about his snared hare, and the old man with you offers quiet praise and a small tip for how to set the snare even more effectively next time. Some have even theorized that this very kind of social information sharing, call it gossip if you like, was a primary driver of language itself. The need to communicate who is trustworthy, what dangers lie over the next hill, and who saw the bison herd moving west, is a powerful evolutionary pressure for more complex communication. The walk back becomes a quiet celebration of survival, a reinforcement of the social bonds that make your small, fragile group so resilient. You are not just a work party returning to base. You are a family returning home. The conversation that bubbles up on the final leg of your journey home is a miracle, though you don't know it. The words you use are not just simple sounds. They are intricate packets of data, honed by millennia of evolutionary pressure. When you describe the lion, you don't just make a roaring sound. You use a specific noun that everyone understands refers to that particular predator. You use prepositions and adjectives to place it in space and time. It was on the high ridge. Its coat was the color of dry grass. It was watching you from a distance. You use verbs to convey what happened in the past and what you believe will happen in the future. The bison herd was there, and the hunters will find them. This is the engine of your survival. The ability to communicate complex, abstract information about things that are not immediately present is arguably the single most powerful tool your species has ever developed. Cognitive scientists and linguists of the future will fiercely debate the origin story of language. Did it evolve gradually from gestures, or did it emerge in a sudden big bang of cognitive development? For you, it is simply the air you breathe. But its power is rooted in a profound cognitive leap. Symbolic thought. You understand instinctively that one thing can stand for another. A series of deep, cloven prints in the snow is not just disturbed earth. It is a symbol that means a large, heavy animal passed this way recently. A dark cloud formation on the horizon is a symbol for a storm is coming. And the specific series of sounds you make with your mouth, bison, is a symbol for a massive, shaggy, and delicious animal that you hope to eat for dinner. This ability to detach meaning from the physical world, to create a shared reality of abstract symbols, is what allows you to plan, to cooperate, and to build a culture. It is the foundation for everything, from the story you will tell tonight to the paintings deep inside the sacred caves. As you walk, the boy who snared the hare tries to mimic the sharp, piercing cry of a peregrine falcon. The sound he makes is impressively accurate. This is not just idle play. Sound and mimicry are a vital part of your toolkit. Hunters use bird calls as signals to each other across wide, open spaces, their sounds blending into the natural acoustic environment without alarming their prey. A skilled caller can imitate the bleat of a lost calf to draw in a curious mother, or the grunt of a rival male to provoke a territorial response. Your language is not just for communicating with humans. It is a tool for interacting with, and sometimes deceiving, the other species that share your world. Some have even put forward a singing Neanderthal hypothesis, suggesting that the earliest forms of language may have been more musical and tonal, closer to song, with rhythm and pitch conveying as much meaning as the words themselves. Everything you know, Everything your people have ever known exists only in the memories of the living. You live in a world without writing. There are no books, no scrolls, no hard drives. The collective wisdom of your clan, the history of its migrations, the genealogy of its families, the catalogue of medicinal plants, the complex rules of your society, is stored on the most fragile and remarkable medium of all, the human mind. It is preserved and transmitted through the spoken word, through ritual, and most powerfully, through story. The elders are your libraries, the storytellers your historians. The news you are carrying about the bison herd will not be filed away in a report. It will be delivered orally, discussed, and then woven into the living narrative of the clan. It will become part of a story, told and retold around the fire. A story that simultaneously entertains, instructs, and preserves a vital piece of information. The survival of this knowledge depends entirely on the strength of memory and the power of the spoken word. As the familiar, comforting sight of your home comes into full view, you ready yourself to make your report, to contribute your small, crucial sentence to the great, unwritten book of your people. Your arrival back at the camp sends a ripple of energy through the small community. The news of the fresh bison tracks, delivered in a torrent of urgent words and gestures, changes the rhythm of the day completely. The quiet domestic tasks, scraping hides, mending clothes, working on tools, are put on hold. A new, focused intensity takes over. This is the opportunity the clan has been waiting for. A large kill now, before the worst of the deep winter sets in, would mean the difference between security and hardship. It would mean full bellies, a surplus of hides for warmth, and mountains of bone for tools and fuel. The stakes are immense, and the decision to act is instantaneous. A hunting party is formed, not through discussion or debate, but through a kind of silent, mutual understanding. Everyone knows who must go. The group is small. 4 men and your sister, the 5 most skilled and durable hunters in your clan. They are chosen for their speed, their stamina, their unflagging patience, and their ability to work together as a single coordinated entity. This is not a task for the inexperienced or the reckless. Hunting megafauna like bison is one of the most dangerous activities your people undertake. A high-stakes gamble where a moment's hesitation or a poorly thrown spear can lead to disaster. The rest of the clan will remain behind, their role no less important. To keep the home fire burning, to care for the young and the old, and to wait in a state of anxious hope. The selected hunters begin to prepare, their movements economical and precise. They are gathering the Paleolithic arsenal, a collection of weapons that are the culmination of 1,000,000 years of technological evolution. The primary weapon is the spear. These are not crude, sharpened sticks. They are elegant, deadly implements. Each shaft, carved from a long, straight branch of ash or birch, has been painstakingly seasoned over a fire to make it hard and straight. The tips are magnificent works of art and lethality. Some are simply fire-hardened to a sharp, durable point, while others are tipped with razor-sharp points of flint or obsidian, skillfully hafted and bound with sinew and adhesive birch tar. But 3 of the hunters, the most experienced ones, carry a second piece of equipment, a device that represents a quantum leap in hunting technology. It is the atlatl, the spear thrower. It is a simple-looking tool, a length of wood or antler about as long as your forearm, with a handle at one end and a small, hooked spur at the other. This humble-looking stick is a force multiplier, an invention as revolutionary in its time as the bow and arrow will be in the distant future. By effectively lengthening the thrower's arm, It allows a spear, or more accurately, a lighter fletched dart, to be launched with vastly more power and velocity than by hand alone. Experimental archaeologists will one day prove that a dart thrown with an atlatl can leave the hand at over 150 kilometers per hour, striking with enough force to pierce the thick hide and ribs of a large animal from a safe distance. Some of these atlatls are purely functional, but others are exquisitely carved with the images of animals, suggesting they are not just tools, but objects of spiritual power and personal significance. Before they depart, there is a final, quiet moment of preparation that is more than just practical. The lead hunter takes a small, smooth stone and a lump of dark red ochre. He grinds the ochre into a fine, blood-red powder in the palm of his hand, mixing it with a bit of melted animal fat. He dips his finger into the paste and draws a single straight line down his forehead. Then he marks each of the spear shafts with the same red symbol. It is a silent, solemn act. Anthropologists will debate the meaning of such rituals for centuries. Was it a prayer to the spirit of the bison, asking for its life? Was it a form of hunting magic meant to ensure success? Or was it simply a way to focus the mind, to mark the transition from the familiar world of the camp to the sacred, dangerous space of the hunt? Perhaps it was all of those things. With their preparations complete, the small group gives a final silent nod to the rest of the clan. There are no grand farewells, no tearful goodbyes. Everything is understood. They turn and jog away from the camp, their movements fluid and ground-eating, their bodies bent low against the wind. They are leaving the small circle of known territory and venturing out into the wider, wilder world, a landscape ruled by tooth and claw and the brutal realities of the food chain. You and the others watch them until their dark forms are just small specks against the vastness of the snow, finally disappearing over a distant ridge. A hush falls over the camp. The waiting has begun. You are now miles from the familiar scent of your home fire, a small, fleeting presence in a world of giants. The five of you move across the landscape like a pack of wolves, silent and efficient. The information from the gatherers was good. You found the tracks exactly where they said you would. A wide, trampled path of churned-up earth and snow where the bison herd passed. Now, the second phase of the hunt begins. The tracking. And for this, you must stop thinking like a human and start thinking like a bison. This is the art of the hunt, a deep, empathetic projection of your consciousness into the mind of your quarry. You must become the prey to understand its next move. Your lead hunter, a man named Kor, kneels by the tracks, his focus absolute. He is not just looking at them, he is reading them. To an untrained eye, it is a chaotic mess of prints. To him, it is a detailed report. He points to a specific hoof print. It is deep, its edges sharp and clear. This tells him the animal that made it is large and heavy, likely a prime bull. He gestures to a pile of droppings nearby. A faint wisp of steam still rises from it in the frigid air. They are close. Very close. Perhaps only an hour ahead. He crumbles a piece between his fingers, smelling it, analyzing its contents to see what they have been eating. Every sign is a word, every trail a sentence. A patch of dark, coarse hair snagged on a thorny bush confirms their species beyond any doubt. A place where the tracks are suddenly splayed and deeper than the surrounding prints tells of a moment of alarm, perhaps the passing of the lion the gatherers saw. The skill of a master tracker like Kor is a form of forensic science, a meticulous reconstruction of past events from the faintest of clues. With the information gathered, you begin to move again. Not at a sprint, but at a steady, loping trot, a pace you can maintain for hours on end. This is the key to your success, the secret weapon embedded in your very biology. You cannot outrun a bison in a short burst of speed. No human can, but you can outlast it. You are a persistence hunter, an endurance machine built by 2 million years of evolution. The evidence for this is written all over your body. Your long, springy Achilles tendons, your large gluteal muscles, your upright bipedal stance. All are adaptations for efficient, long-distance running. And most importantly, your skin. While the bison is wrapped in a thick, insulating coat of fur, you are mostly naked and covered in millions of sweat glands. As you run, your body becomes a highly efficient cooling system. You sweat, and the evaporation of that moisture on your skin pulls heat away from your body. The bison, to cool down, has to pant. It's a far less efficient method, and one it cannot do while galloping. So, your strategy is simple and brutal. You will run the herd, not to exhaustion in a single day, but relentlessly, pushing them, keeping them moving, preventing them from resting or grazing for long. You will harry them, appearing on a ridge, then disappearing. A constant, nagging threat that keeps their stress levels high and their energy reserves draining. Anthropologists will debate how common this tactic was in the cold of the Ice Age, but the physical adaptations you possess are undeniable. This entire strategy, this way of life, rests on a foundation that was laid down millions of years before you were born. In the sun-baked earth of a place that will one day be called Tanzania, your unimaginably ancient ancestors, a species known as Australopithecus, walked across a plain of wet volcanic ash. Their footprints, miraculously preserved, will be discovered 3.6 million years later at a place called Letoli. Those fossilized prints are the first page in your story. They are the undeniable proof of the moment your lineage committed to walking upright, freeing the hands to carry tools and weapons, and starting the long, slow evolutionary journey that shaped your legs, your hips, and your spine into the perfect engine for endurance. You are the inheritor of that legacy. Every step you take on this frozen ground is an echo of those first bipedal steps, a continuation of the story that will eventually make your small, clever species the most formidable predator the world has ever known. You settle into the rhythm of the chase, your breath pluming in the cold air, your eyes fixed on the trail ahead. For hours, the world is reduced to the rhythm of your own breathing and the sight of the churning, shaggy backs of the bison herd ahead. The sun crawls across the vast, pale sky, and the landscape shifts from open steppe to rolling hills cut through with frozen stream beds. This is not a mindless chase. With every step you are not just following, you are guiding. The lead hunter, Core, has been using the terrain with the skill of a master strategist, subtly directing your group's approach to steer the tired and increasingly confused animals towards a pre-chosen destination. The bison believe they are fleeing, but they are actually being herded into a trap. The place Core has chosen is a natural bottleneck where the flat plain narrows into a shallow, box-ended ravine. It's not a dramatic cliff like a proper bison jump, but something more subtle. A place where the terrain will bunch the animals together, sow confusion, and limit their avenues of escape. As the herd pours into the narrowing channel, Core gives a sharp, low whistle. It's the signal. The hunt enters its final lethal phase. This is no longer about endurance. It is about strategy and overwhelming force. Your small group fans out with practiced speed. 2 of you, armed with heavy spears and making loud, sharp cries, move to block the entrance of the ravine, preventing the herd from doubling back. The other 3, including you, scramble up the low, rocky sides, positioning yourselves above the now milling, anxious animals below. This is the moment where your intelligence and your technology converge to give you an almost supernatural advantage. From your perch on the rocks, you are at a safe distance, well out of reach of the horns and hooves of the panicked beasts. Now is the time for the spear thrower. You unhook the atlatl from your belt. You hold it in your hand, its familiar weight a comfort. It is an extension of your body, a tool you have practiced with since you were a child. You pull a light, fletched dart from the quiver on your back. It is far slimmer and more flexible than a heavy hand-thrown spear. You lay it along the groove of the atlatl, fitting the small conical indent at the back of the dart, securely onto the tool's sharp, forward-pointing spur. This connection is the secret to its power. Military historians of the future will sometimes debate whether the atlatl was the first true weapons system, a deadly combination of launcher and projectile. To you, it is simply the tool that allows you to reach out and touch an animal from 30 yards away with lethal force. Below you, Kor has selected his target, a large young female near the edge of the herd. He gives a sharp, downward chop with his hand. The signal to fire. You raise your arm, not like you're throwing a ball, but in a longer, more fluid motion, like a whip. Your entire body is coiled like a spring. Then you unleash, snapping your arm forward. The atlatl acts as a powerful lever, accelerating the dart through a much longer arc than your arm alone could provide. The stored energy releases in a single explosive instant. The dart leaves your hand with a sharp, satisfying zip, a blur of motion too fast to follow. The physics of this moment are astounding. The atlatl has multiplied the force of your throw, launching the projectile at a velocity that rivals early firearms. It's a marvel of prehistoric engineering. The feathered fletching at the back of the dart provides stability in flight, a kind of ballistic forgiveness that ensures it flies true, correcting for minor imperfections in your throw. You see your dart, and the 2 thrown by your companions, arc down into the ravine. There is a series of dull, wet thuds. The female that Kor targeted stumbles, a dark shaft protruding from high on her side, behind the shoulder. Another bison cries out in pain and fury. The herd, already panicked, now explodes into chaos, their bellows echoing off the ravine walls. The first volley has struck home. The attack has begun. The ravine erupts into a storm of raw, primal power. The wounded bison bellows in pain and rage, crashing against its kin. The herd, trapped and terrified, surges back and forth, their hooves churning the frozen earth into a muddy slurry. From your perch, you witness the terrifying reality of the beasts you hunt. This is a steppe bison, a creature far larger and more aggressive than its modern descendants. A mature bull stands taller than a man at the shoulder and weighs over a ton, its horns a wicked, curving span of sharpened bone. It is a true giant, a force of nature, and it is only one of the many megafauna that dominate your world. To live in this time is to be constantly humbled by the sheer scale of the animal life around you. You have seen woolly mammoths, like walking, hairy mountains, their tusks so long they scrape the ground. You have steered clear of the short-faced bear, a predator so large it could look a man in the eye while on all fours. You have watched vast herds of wild horses and reindeer flow over the landscape like rivers of life. These are not just animals in the modern sense. They are walking ecosystems, titanic forces that shape the very land you walk on. The relationship you have with them is a source of endless fascination and future debate. Were you a noble hunter, living in a perfect, harmonious balance? Or were you a new and terrifyingly efficient predator, a walking extinction event? The truth, as always, is likely somewhere in between. Compared to a mammoth hunt, this engagement with the bison is a controlled and relatively safe affair. To take on a mammoth is another order of magnitude entirely. It's a multi-day, multi-clan operation, a full-blown military campaign against a beast that can kill you by accident. It requires dozens of hunters working in concert to try and separate a single individual, usually a youngster or a lone bull, from the defensive circle of the herd. It is the ultimate test of courage, cooperation, and technology, and the rewards are legendary. A single mammoth can provide food, fuel, and raw materials for months. But the risks are astronomical. Many hunters have been lost to the fury of a wounded or protective mammoth. This bison, as dangerous as it is a calculated and manageable risk. Below, the chaos is subsiding. The wounded female, her strength failing, has been pushed to the side by the desperate herd as they find a narrow game trail and begin to scramble out of the far end of the ravine. Your companions on the ground are nimble, staying well clear as the panicked animals thunder past. They focus their attention and their heavy spears on the injured animal. The final moments are a flurry of grim, efficient work. They approach from the side, a blind spot for the bison, and deliver swift, powerful thrusts to the vital organs in the chest cavity. There is a final, shuddering sigh, and the great beast collapses onto the muddy ground. Silence falls, broken only by the ragged breathing of the hunters and the distant rumble of the escaping herd. The adrenaline of the chase and the violence of the kill recedes, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. You and the others climb down from the rocks and approach the fallen animal. It is still immense, its shaggy coat matted with sweat and blood, its now dull eye staring blankly at the pale sky. Kor, the leader, walks up to the bison's great head and places his hand on its flank for a long moment. There is no triumphant roar, no boastful celebration. Instead, there is a quiet, almost solemn atmosphere. This was not a sport. It was a necessary, terrible act. You have taken the life of a powerful, magnificent being so that your own people might live. In this moment, you feel the weight of that transaction. You feel a sense of respect, of gratitude, and perhaps even of apology to the spirit of the animal. Sights like this, littered with the bones of thousands of horses or dozens of mammoths, alongside the beautiful, deadly Solutrian points used to bring them down, will one day provide science with the hard evidence of your success as a hunter. But they will never be able to capture this moment, the profound, quiet reverence that follows the kill. The moment of quiet reverence passes. It has to. You have no time for ceremony. The coppery scent of blood is already heavy in the air, a dinner bell for every scavenger and predator in this territory. The cave lion, wolves, a pack of hulking hyenas. They will all be coming. You have a few hours of daylight at most to complete the monumental task ahead, dismantling a 1-ton mountain of meat, hide, and bone, and preparing it for transport. Kor gives a sharp nod, and the five of you descend upon the carcass like a team of surgeons, a whirlwind of practiced, brutal efficiency. This is where your stone toolkit, so carefully prepared and maintained, truly comes to life. Each tool has a specific purpose, and the process is a systematic deconstruction. Core takes out a heavy, fist-sized stone chopper. He uses it not for cutting, but for blunt force, striking the knee joints of the bison with powerful, accurate blows to disarticulate the massive legs. Another hunter uses a large, teardrop-shaped hand axe to sever the thick muscles of the neck. But the real work, the delicate and essential work of slicing, is done with the simplest and sharpest tools you possess: unmodified flint flakes. Your sister pulls a prepared core of flint from her bag, and with a sharp rap from a piece of antler, strikes off a flake the size of her palm. Its edge is freshly made, untouched, and phenomenally sharp. Far sharper, in fact, than modern surgical steel. She uses this disposable, razor-sharp scalpel to make the first long, deep incision down the animal's belly. The thick, hairy hide parts with surprising ease under its keen edge. From there, the process is one of peeling back the skin, which will be your most valuable prize after the meat. It's a slow, hot, and smelly job. You work in pairs, one person pulling the heavy hide taut, while the other cuts away the connective tissue that anchors it to the muscle beneath. All the while you are aware of the world around you. One of you is always on watch, scanning the ridges, listening for the telltale signs of approaching danger. The study of this process, taphonomy, will one day allow archaeologists to examine the microscopic cut marks left by your tools on these very bones, distinguishing your work from the gnawing of carnivores and proving the sophistication of your butchery techniques. Your guiding philosophy is to waste absolutely nothing. Every part of this animal is a gift, a treasure to be utilized. The five of you are not just butchers, you are resource managers. The great dark sheets of muscle are sliced away and laid out on the cleaner side of the hide. The heart, liver, and kidneys, organs rich in essential vitamins, are set aside to be eaten soon, perhaps even here, raw, to replenish your energy. The long, powerful tendons that run along the spine are carefully excised. They are your future bowstrings, your sewing thread, your sinew cordage for lashing spear points to their shafts. The stomach and bladder will be cleaned and transformed into durable, flexible water containers. Even the bones are a treasure. You use the heavy chopper to crack open the thick leg bones, exposing the rich, fatty marrow inside. A calorie-dense superfood that is one of the most prized parts of any kill. The larger bones will be hauled back to camp to be further processed into tools, needles, awls, fish hooks, and hide scrapers. The smaller bones and ribs might be used in the construction of your shelters or even burned as a slow, steady source of fuel. You are living the original zero-waste lifestyle, a masterclass in efficiency, born of absolute necessity. The sun is beginning to dip towards the horizon, painting the snow in shades of orange and purple. The work is almost done. The carcass is now a skeleton, picked clean. You are surrounded by piles of meat and a truly enormous hide. You face the final logistical challenge, getting the prize home. You can't possibly carry it all. This is why you butcher in the field. Archaeologists will debate whether you always processed kills on site or sometimes managed to haul larger pieces back to camp, a decision likely dictated by the distance and the danger. Today, the choice is clear. You load the prime cuts of meat onto the center of the massive hide. You take the marrow bones, the organ meats, and the precious sinew. Then you fold the hide over the payload, creating a natural, makeshift sledge. You cut thick straps of skin to use as harnesses. The journey home will be a grueling, back-breaking slog, hauling hundreds of pounds across the frozen landscape in the fading light. But it will be a triumphant journey. You have gambled with the wilderness, and you have won. The journey back is a special kind of hell. Every muscle in your body screams in protest against the staggering weight of the hide sledge. The straps cut into your shoulders, and the frozen, uneven ground seems to grab at your feet with every step. You are operating on the last, dwindling reserves of your strength, driven forward only by the thought of the home fire and the hungry mouths you are about to feed. You travel for hours in the deepening twilight, a moving island of sweat and exhaustion in the vast, cold darkness. Then you see it, a tiny flickering pinprick of orange light against the distant, black horizon. The fire. Home. It's a beacon of warmth, safety, and community in the immense, indifferent wilderness, and the sight of it sends a surge of fresh adrenaline through your weary limbs. As you get closer, a lookout from the clan spots your approaching figures. A cry goes up, a sound of pure, unadulterated joy and relief that cuts through the night. In moments, the entire clan is awake and pouring out of the shelter to greet you. Children run ahead, their excited shouts echoing in the crisp air. They surround you, touching the bloody hide, chattering with 100 questions at once. The weight of the sledge is suddenly shared by a dozen eager hands. The mood is electric. Your return is not just a success for the 5 of you, it is a victory for every single person in the clan, from the oldest elder to the youngest infant. The massive, blood-soaked parcel is dragged into the firelight, and the real work of community begins. This mountain of meat does not belong to the hunters who killed it. It belongs to the clan. The concept of private ownership of essential resources is utterly alien to you. Hoarding food would be the gravest social sin imaginable, a betrayal of the unwritten contract that binds you all together. Kor, as the hunt leader, oversees the distribution, but he does so as a custodian for the group, not as a king. He ensures that the best cuts, the most nutrient-rich organs, and the fattiest pieces are shared equitably. A large portion is set aside for the family of a man who is still recovering from a badly broken leg. The elders, whose teeth are worn and weak, are given the soft, rich liver. Everyone receives a share, because everyone is part of the collective. This is the very essence of your society, the social insurance that allows you to survive in a world of constant uncertainty. Sociologists of the future, using complex game theory models, will confirm what you know in your bones. In a high-risk world, unconditional sharing is the single most successful survival strategy. With the distribution underway, the camp transforms into a scene of jubilant celebration. The fire is built high, a roaring bonfire that throws dancing shadows and pushes back the immense darkness of the steppe. The air, which just hours ago smelled of cold stone and dry grass, is now filled with the intoxicating, mouth-watering aroma of roasting bison meat. Thick steaks are slapped directly onto hot, glowing embers. Chunks of fat are rendered down in a hide-lined pit filled with water and fire-heated stones. The sound is a symphony of joy, the sizzle of fat, the excited chatter of the children, the low murmur of contented adults, and above it all, the animated telling of the story of the hunt. Kor and your sister and the others recount the entire adventure, acting out the parts, mimicking the stealthy approach. the tension of the standoff, and the thunderous chaos of the kill. They are not just sharing information. They are transforming the day's events into a story, a legend that will be told and retold, becoming part of the clan's oral history. This is your holiday, your festival, a moment of pure, unadulterated pleasure. You gorge yourself on the fresh, rich meat until your belly is tight, and you feel a deep, satisfied warmth spread through your body. As the feast winds down and a profound sense of peace settles over the group, the conversation turns to the future. The immediate gnawing anxiety of hunger has been lifted. You are secure. This successful hunt has purchased the most valuable currency in your world: time. A group of women are already examining the enormous hide, discussing the best way to scrape and tan it. It is large enough to recover a section of the shelter or provide several new winter cloaks. The men are looking at the pile of fresh bones, seeing a whole new generation of tools waiting to be created. This bounty means you will have a week, maybe two, where the primary focus is not a desperate search for food. It is time to rest, to heal, to craft, to teach, and to strengthen the social bonds that are your ultimate key to survival. You lie back on your furs, your stomach full, the warmth of the fire on your face, and feel a sense of security that is deep, profound, and all too rare. The next morning, the camp is filled with a different kind of energy. The frantic, high-stakes drama of the hunt and the joyous release of the feast have given way to a calmer, more industrious hum. The immediate threat of starvation is gone, and the clan can now turn its attention to the vital task of converting the raw materials from the bison kill into the tools and technologies of survival. While some are already starting the long, arduous process of scraping the great hide, and others are carefully cutting meat into thin strips to be smoked and preserved, you find yourself drawn to the quiet, rhythmic sounds coming from a corner of the camp. Here, sheltered from the wind, sits the old man, Matu. He is not a great hunter anymore, his legs stiff and his breath short, but in his hands he holds a different kind of power. He is the master stone napper, the architect of the clan's survival. He is about to begin his work, and the process starts not with a violent crash of stone on stone, but with a quiet, contemplative selection. Before him are several large, rounded nodules of flint, their outsides a chalky, rough cortex. He brought these stones from a quarry site a week's journey from here, a sacred place where the earth gives up its sharpest teeth. He picks one up, cradling it in his hands, feeling its weight and balance. He taps it gently with a small, smooth river stone, his head cocked to one side, listening. He is not just listening for cracks or flaws. He is listening to the voice of the stone itself. A high, clear, ringing sound tells him the material is solid, homogeneous, and will fracture predictably. A dull, flat thud would mean the nodule has a hidden internal flaw, and he would discard it immediately. This is a knowledge that goes beyond the visual, a skill learned through years of tactile and auditory feedback. Satisfied, he chooses his nodule and places it on a leather pad on his lap. His toolkit is laid out beside him, a large, dense hammerstone for the initial rough work, a baton of caribou antler, which is softer than stone and allows for more controlled strikes, and a small pointed piece of antler for the final delicate pressure flaking. His task today is to create a new set of spear points, the beautiful and deadly leaf-shaped points that your people are famous for. He has a perfect three-dimensional image of this final form in his mind. Cognitive archaeologists of the future we'll debate whether this complex sequential process, this grammar of action, is a direct precursor to the cognitive abilities required for language. For Matu, it is an unspoken dialogue with the stone. The work begins. Using the heavy hammerstone, he delivers a few powerful, glancing blows to the outside of the nodule, knocking off large, rough flakes and removing the worthless outer cortex. Then he switches to the antler baton. The sound changes from a sharp crack to a duller, more resonant thwack. This is the thinning stage, and it is where the true art lies. Each strike is a calculated decision. Before he hits, he meticulously prepares the edge of the stone, abrading it slightly to create a strong platform to receive the blow. He knows the precise angle and force needed to detach a long, thin, predictable flake. It is a subtractive art, a high-stakes game of three-dimensional chess. Every flake he removes is a permanent decision, and a single miscalculation, a single moment of lost focus, can shatter the piece, wasting hours of work and a precious piece of raw material. The ground around him is already littered with the glittering, sharp-edged debris of his past work. This is debitage, the thousands of waste flakes produced during the manufacturing process. To you, it is just sharp garbage to be avoided. To an archaeologist, it is a treasure trove. By painstakingly collecting these flakes and fitting them back together like a giant, three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, they can reconstruct Matu's exact process. They can see his skill, identify his preferred techniques, see where he made mistakes, and even determine if he was right or left-handed. The floor of this small workspace is a high-resolution story of creation, written in stone. As you watch, the rough nodule in his hands slowly transforms, losing its shapelessness and taking on the elegant, symmetrical form that exists in his mind. It is a kind of magic, turning a dead rock into a living edge, an object of both lethal beauty and pure potential. On the other side of the camp, a different kind of alchemy is underway, a transformation that is every bit as skilled and essential as Matu's work with stone. Here, the air is thick with the smells of smoke, sweat, and something else. A rich, fatty, slightly metallic odor. This is the tannery. The great bison hide, now scraped clean of its meat and fat, has been stretched taut on a wooden frame. Several women, including your aunt, are working on it, their bodies moving in a steady, rhythmic pattern. They are using stone scrapers, not the sharp-edged flakes used for butchery, but tools with a duller, rounded edge, designed to be pushed, not pulled. Their job is to remove every last trace of membrane and tissue from the inner surface of the hide, a process called fleshing. It's grueling, physically demanding work that can take an entire day. Once the hide is perfectly clean, the most crucial and perhaps strangest part of the process begins. One of the women retrieves the bison's brain, which was carefully saved during the butchery. She mashes it in a stone bowl with a little water, creating a thick, grayish paste. This brain slurry is then meticulously rubbed by hand into every inch of the damp hide. It seems like a bizarre and messy ritual, but it is pure chemistry. The lipid and lecithin oils in the brain tissue are a perfect natural tanning agent. They coat the collagen fibers within the hide, preventing them from gluing together and turning stiff as a board when they dry. There is an old tanner's saying, passed down for millennia: every animal has just enough brains to tan its own hide. While not perfectly accurate for every species, it captures the beautiful, self-contained efficiency of your world. After the braining, the hide will be stretched, pulled, and worked until it is soft and supple, and then smoked for hours over a smoldering, punky fire to make it water-resistant and durable. This transformation of raw skin into usable leather is what makes survival in this climate possible. And the next stage of that survival is happening just a few feet away, by the warmth of the fire. An older woman is mending a child's tunic. Her work is made possible by one of the most significant, yet most easily overlooked, inventions of your age, the eyed bone needle. In her hand she holds a tiny, polished sliver of bone, perhaps from a bird or a hare. At one end, it is sharpened to a fine point. At the other is a miracle of micro-engineering, a tiny, perfectly drilled hole. The creation of such a small, precise hole, using nothing but a sharp flint drill, is a testament to incredible skill and patience. This simple tool is a revolution. It allows for the creation of fitted, tailored clothing. No longer are you simply wrapping yourselves in untanned hides. You can now cut pieces of soft leather and stitch them together to create shirts, leggings, boots, and parkas. You can create layered outfits, trapping air between the layers for insulation, a principle that will keep your descendants warm until the invention of synthetic fibers. The discovery of these exquisite needles at sites like Sungir in Russia, dating back tens of thousands of years, is the absolute proof that you are not a shaggy, primitive brute, but a sophisticated clothier, a master of survival in the extreme cold. The fruits of this labor are all around you. The very shelter you live in is a product of this technology. One of the men is inspecting the outer covering of your mammoth bone hut, running his hand over the stitched-together hides. He finds a long tear near the top, likely caused by the lashing winds of the last blizzard. The new bison hide, once it's fully processed, is more than large enough to create a huge patch, reinforcing your home against the coming winter storms. Your shelter is not a static object. It is a living thing, constantly being mended, maintained, and improved. And the creativity doesn't stop with stone and hide. One of the younger hunters is sitting near Matu, the flint napper. He has one of the new, sharp spear points and is using its tip as an engraving tool, a burin. His raw material is a thick piece of caribou antler. With incredible precision, he is carving a series of sharp, backward-facing barbs along the edge of the antler, turning it into a harpoon head for spearfishing in the summer. From this same material, others will make buttons, beads for decoration, and other small, specialized tools. You have mastered a whole suite of materials, each with its own unique properties, turning the bones, skins, and stones of your world into a sophisticated and life-sustaining culture. For the next few days, a rare and precious atmosphere settles over your camp. It is a feeling of profound security. The sight of bison meat smoking on racks and the immense, clean hide being worked in the sun is a powerful balm for the soul. The constant low-level hum of anxiety that accompanies the search for food has been silenced. The bison has given your clan its greatest gift, a surplus. And a surplus of food translates directly into a surplus of the one resource you can never get back: time. This is discretionary time, a period of grace where your actions are not dictated by the immediate, growling demands of your stomach. And what do you do with this gift? You create, you innovate, you beautify. You see it happening all around you. Kor, the lead hunter, is working on his atlatl. It is not broken, but he is making a new one from a seasoned piece of yew wood. He spends hours with a sharp flint burin, not just shaping it for perfect balance and function. but painstakingly engraving the stylized figure of a horse along its length. It is an act of love and artistry. The horse will not make the spear fly any faster, but it will give the tool a spirit, a story. It transforms it from a mere object into a part of his identity. Your aunt, her gathering basket full for now, has started a new project. She is weaving a much larger and more intricate basket from willow shoots, using different colored barks to create a subtle, alternating pattern in the weave. This is not for the daily grind of collecting roots. It is a storage container, a piece of domestic furniture that will last for years. It is an investment in the future, an act of faith that there will be things to store. Elsewhere, a younger woman grinds lumps of colored earth, red and yellow ochre, black manganese, on a flat stone. She is not preparing pigments for a hunt ritual. She is simply experimenting, mixing the powders with animal fat to create a palette of paints, which she then uses to draw a series of delicate geometric lines on a soft piece of scraped buckskin. It is art for art's sake. The very existence of these activities is the most powerful argument against the popular caricature of your life as a desperate, unceasing struggle. Beautifully decorated tools, intricate beadwork, musical instruments, and the breathtaking paintings hidden in the deep caves. These things are the children of leisure. They are born in the quiet moments between the desperate struggles. They require time to conceive, time to practice, and time to execute. They are the undeniable proof that your life is more than a grim cycle of hunting and eating. You have slack in the system. This reality led one 20th century anthropologist to propose a radical and controversial idea, what he called the original affluent society. Academics have long debated this theory, questioning whether the lives of modern foragers can truly tell us about the past. But the core idea is a powerful corrective to our modern assumptions. It suggests that you and your people are not poor. Affluence, after all, is not about having a lot of things. It's about having everything you need. Your material wants are few and are readily met by the world around you. You don't need to work a 40-hour week to pay a mortgage or fill a storage unit with possessions you never use. By desiring little, you want for nothing. Studies of more recent hunter-gatherer groups have suggested that they often spend as little as 15 to 20 hours per week on what we would call work, the direct acquisition of food. The rest of the time is for resting, for socializing, for storytelling, and as you see all around you, for creating. Perhaps the true struggle is not yours, but that of the agricultural and industrial societies to come, forever chained to a life of hard labor to support a mountain of needs you can't even imagine. As darkness falls, the world outside the shelter dissolves into an immense, cold void. The wind picks up, a low, mournful howl that seems to carry the loneliness of the endless steppe. But inside, your small bubble of humanity is a universe of warmth, light, and savory smells. The great central hearth, which was the first priority of the cold dawn, is now the undisputed king of the night. It is a roaring bonfire, a living sun that holds the terrifying darkness at bay and draws every member of the clan into its comforting orbit. The day's projects are put away, the tools laid to rest. People gather on thick furs around the fire, their faces painted in flickering shades of orange and red. This is the time for winding down, for sharing stories, for reinforcing the bonds that make you a community. And at the center of this evening ritual is the food. The evening meal is a far cry from the brutish caricature of a caveman gnawing on a burnt, raw chunk of meat. Your culinary world is surprisingly complex, a testament to a deep and practical understanding of food science. Some of the fresh bison steaks are indeed being cooked directly, not on a stick in the flames, but sizzling on a large, flat slab of sandstone that has been heating at the edge of the hearth for hours. The hot stone sears the meat, locking in the juices and creating a delicious browned crust. But beside the hearth, a more ingenious method is in action. A pit has been dug in the earthen floor and lined with a section of thick, waterproof hide, creating a makeshift cooking pot. It is filled with water, chunks of the tougher cuts of bison meat, a generous handful of the roots the gatherers brought back, and a few bitter herbs for flavor and digestion. This is a prehistoric stew, and the cooking method is brilliant. Several round stones, chosen for their ability to withstand thermal shock, have been sitting in the heart of the fire until they glow with a dull red heat. Using a pair of green wood tongs, one of the women lifts a glowing stone from the fire and carefully drops it into the hide pot. The water erupts in a violent, hissing boil, the intense heat from the stone instantly cooking the food around it. As the stone cools, another is added. This is stone boiling, a way to cook soups and stews thousands of years before the invention of pottery. You look up into the smoky rafters of the hut and see another form of food science at work. Long, thin strips of bison meat hang there, slowly turning a deep, dark red in the smoke from the fire. This is preservation. The smoke cures the meat, preventing it from spoiling and creating a supply of lightweight, durable jerky that will sustain you during future journeys or lean times. When the food is ready, it is shared on slabs of bark or large, clean leaves. You take a piece of the stone-seared steak. The flavor is intense, richer, and more gamey than any domesticated meat your descendants will ever taste. You drink the hot, savory broth from the stew out of a small wooden bowl, the earthy sweetness of the roots a perfect complement to the rich meat. You scoop out a chunk of roasted bone marrow with your flint knife, its fatty, almost buttery texture a burst of pure energy. Food historians of the future will endlessly debate the nature of the paleo diet, but they will mostly miss the point. There was no single diet. There was an incredible diversity of cuisines, each one perfectly adapted to what the local landscape provided in that particular season. This whole scene, this vibrant kitchen, is not lost to time. It is preserved in the very dirt beneath your feet. Future archaeologists will excavate this exact spot. Using a technique called micromorphology, they will take samples of the hearth and analyze them under a microscope. They will be able to see the layers of ash from different firings, telling them if a fire was quick and hot for heating or low and smoky for curing. They will find the microscopic fossilized remains of the plants you used, the tiny shattered fragments of the bones you cooked, and even the specific types of wood you chose for fuel. Some for high heat, others like juniper, perhaps for the aromatic flavor they imparted to the food. The floor of your home is a recipe book, waiting thousands of years to be read. As the fire burns down to a bed of glowing cherry-red coals, you watch the children of the clan. They are scattered amongst the adults, nestled into the laps of their parents, aunts, and uncles, their faces sleepy in the warm glow. A small toddler, his belly full of roasted marrow, has fallen asleep on his father's chest. An older girl of about 7 sits mesmerized, listening to the story of the hunt for the 10th time, her eyes wide with awe. There is no set bedtime here, no separate nursery. Childhood in your world is not a state of protected quarantine from the adult world. It is a long, seamless apprenticeship into it. From the moment they can walk, children are present, observing, absorbing, and participating in every aspect of community life. Their education does not happen in a special building at a special time. The entire world is their classroom, and every adult is a teacher. Learning is a constant osmotic process. You see your aunt, the expert gatherer, pull a piece of cooked root from the stew. She shows it to her 4-year-old daughter, makes a specific hand gesture, and says the name of the plant. The little girl, her mouth full, solemnly mimics the gesture and garbles the word. It is a game, but it is also a botany lesson, the first step in transferring that vast, unwritten library of leaves into the next generation's mind. The next day, you see the boy who snared the hare sitting beside Matu, the old master craftsman. The boy is not working on a precious piece of flint. Matu has given him a chunk of soft, worthless limestone. He has also given him a rounded river stone, a crude hammerstone. He watches as Matu strikes a flake from a core, and then he imitates the movement, his blow clumsy and ineffective. Matu gently corrects the angle of his strike, adjusting the boy's grip on the stone. The boy will spend weeks, months, just learning the feel of the tools, the basic physics of fracture. He will produce nothing but useless rubble for a long time, but that is not the point. He is training his hands and his eyes, slowly absorbing a skill that is as complex and nuanced as any art form. This education is not just the responsibility of a child's biological parents. When a small boy, fascinated by the glowing embers, toddles a little too close to the fire pit, it is his uncle, a man with no children of his own, who scoops him up and gently redirects him. When a young girl's first attempt at scraping a hide is clumsy, it is an older woman, a great-aunt, who comes over to show her the proper way to hold the tool. This is alloparenting, the deeply human practice of collective child-rearing. Anthropologists will debate the precise structure of your families, but the function is clear. Every child is a child of the clan, and their survival and success is everyone's responsibility. This communal approach ensures that a child who loses a parent is not an orphan, but simply a child with one less teacher among many. It is a web of care that makes your community resilient, and much of their most important learning happens when the adults are not even paying attention. In a quiet corner of the camp, a group of children are playing. It looks like a simple game. They have a collection of smooth, flat stones, representing a herd of animals, and they are using tiny, sharpened twigs as spears, strategizing in whispers about how to corner the bison against a larger rock. Elsewhere, 2 young girls are constructing a miniature shelter out of moss, bark, and mammoth bone fragments. This is not idle fun. It is a simulation. It is practice. In their play, they are rehearsing the complex social and technical skills they will need to survive. They are learning cooperation, strategic thinking, and the fundamentals of engineering. You may even find a tiny carved mammoth made of soft wood, or a small doll-like figure of clay. The rare, precious archaeological evidence of toys. A window into a world of childhood that was not just about survival, but also about imagination and joy. Life in your world is a landscape of constant, low-level physical risk. A slip on an icy rock can mean a broken ankle. A moment of inattention while napping flint can result in a deep, bleeding gash that opens the door to deadly infection. And a close encounter with a cornered animal can lead to catastrophic injury. You see the living history of this reality every day in the form of the old hunter, the one who stayed behind to teach the adolescents. You watch him as he gets up from the fireside, his movements stiff, his leg dragging in a permanent, pronounced limp. The story is well known to everyone in the clan. Years ago, during a woolly rhino hunt, he was gored, his thigh bone shattered. In a world governed by the brutal logic of pure survival of the fittest, he would have been left behind, a death sentence. But that is not your world. He was not abandoned. He was carried back to camp. His wound was cleaned, his leg was likely set as best as they could, and he was fed and protected during the long, agonizing months of healing. He survived because the clan decided he was worth more than the cost of his care. He could no longer be a primary hunter, but his knowledge, his skill at making tools, and his wisdom as an elder were invaluable to the group. His presence is a living testament to the compassion and social foresight that binds your people together. This is not an isolated case. Some of the most profound evidence for this kind of altruism comes not from your own species, but from your evolutionary cousins, the Neanderthals. In a cave in a place that will one day be called Iraq, archaeologists will unearth the skeleton of a Neanderthal man who lived and died some 50,000 years ago. They will name him Shanidar. A study of his bones will tell a story of incredible hardship and even more incredible resilience. In his youth, a crushing blow to the left side of his face fractured his eye socket and would have left him partially or completely blind in one eye. His right arm was withered and useless, having been broken and badly healed, or perhaps even amputated above the elbow. He also suffered from a degenerative disease that would have made walking painful, giving him that same familiar limp. And yet, he lived to be around 40 or 50 years old, a respectable old age for the time. He did not just survive his initial crippling injuries. He lived with them for decades. This would have been utterly impossible without the constant daily care of his group. He was a severely disabled man who was fed, protected, and valued by his community. The skeleton of Shanidar I is perhaps the first unambiguous proof of compassion in the human story. This care extends beyond just feeding and protecting the injured. You possess a working, practical knowledge of medicine. You watch as a woman chews a piece of willow bark and applies the paste to the old hunter's swollen knee to ease his arthritic pain. Willow bark, as your descendants will discover, is a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient in aspirin. The dental plaque on the teeth of Neanderthals from El Cidron cave in Spain will reveal the microscopic traces of this same poplar bark, along with the bitter medicinal plant yarrow, a known antiseptic. This is your pharmacy, a collection of remedies derived from the world around you, and in some cases, your medical interventions are startlingly direct and invasive. While the clearest evidence comes from the later Neolithic period, the origins are likely much older. You know of the practice of trepanation, the deliberate act of scraping or drilling a hole in the skull of a living person. The purpose of this shocking procedure remains one of archaeology's great mysteries. Was it a desperate, last-ditch attempt to relieve the pressure of a skull fracture, a treatment for seizures, or was it a spiritual ritual, a way to allow evil spirits to escape the mind? What is known for certain is that the patients often survived. Skulls are found with smooth, healed edges around the hole, indicating that the bone had years to regrow. This demonstrates a terrifying but undeniable level of surgical skill, a knowledge of basic anatomy, and the ability to care for a patient through a long and dangerous recovery. Your people are not just passive victims of a dangerous world. You are active agents in your own survival, mending broken bodies and soothing pain with a combination of compassion, botanical knowledge, and a surprisingly steady hand. For all the intense inward focus of your small clan, you are not alone in this vast world. Your social universe is much larger than the 27 people who share your hearth. You are one band among a dozen others who occupy this river valley and the surrounding hills. You know their leaders, their territories, and your complex web of kinship with them. They are your distant cousins, your allies, your competitors, and your social safety net. This larger network is as crucial to your long-term survival as any hunting skill or piece of technology. A single band can have a bad season, a failed hunt, a devastating sickness. But a network of a dozen bands is resilient. This is your tribe. The connections are maintained through regular seasonal gatherings. Once a year, usually in the late summer when the resources are most abundant, multiple bands travel to a traditional aggregation site, a wide, sheltered river delta, for a few weeks of intense social interaction. Imagine the scene. After months of seeing only the same few familiar faces, you arrive at a sprawling temporary camp of 150 people. The air is filled with the smoke of a dozen fires, the sounds of children shrieking with delight as they meet new playmates, and the constant hum of unfamiliar voices speaking your language with slightly different intonations. It is a time of incredible excitement and opportunity. This is your trade fair, your marriage market, and your news network, all rolled into one. Your band has brought a cache of the high-quality flint nodules that are found in your territory. You trade these for other valuables. A man from a band to the west offers a beautifully crafted atlatl made from a type of wood that doesn't grow here. A woman from the south, whose people live closer to the ancient sea, has a necklace of pierced seashells, objects of exotic beauty and immense prestige. The physical evidence of these interactions is one of the clearest signs of your complex social world. Archaeologists will find those very seashells hundreds of miles inland. Using geochemical analysis, they can trace a piece of obsidian or a specific type of flint found in one place back to its precise geological source, sometimes 1,000 kilometers away. These objects are the smoking guns that prove the existence of vast, continent-spanning networks that moved goods, ideas, and people across the landscape. Anthropologists will debate if these were formal trade routes or a more casual, down-the-line exchange, but the fact of the network is undeniable. This is also the time to find a partner. To maintain a healthy gene pool and build alliances, you must marry outside of your immediate group. The principle of exogamy is a fundamental rule of your society. The young men and women eye each other, and through a complex process of negotiation between families, new pairs are formed, new bonds created between bands that will last for a generation. But with so many people in one place, tensions can and do arise. A dispute erupts between two young hunters from different bands over the ownership of a kill from a joint hunt. Angry words are exchanged. In a world without police, courts, or prisons, how do you stop this from escalating into a violent, clan-consuming blood feud? You do it with social pressure and the wisdom of the elders. The leaders of the two bands are called to mediate. They don't act as judges who issue a verdict. They facilitate a public discussion. They remind the young men of their shared kinship, of the importance of cooperation. Other respected members of the community weigh in, shaming the hot-headed and appealing to their better nature. The conflict is resolved not with a punishment, but with a restoration of balance, often through the ritualized exchange of gifts. One man might give the other a new flint knife as a sign of respect and apology. It is a sophisticated system of justice based on reconciliation not retribution, designed to mend the delicate social fabric that is your most important collective creation. It is tempting to look at the deep social bonds, the evidence of compassion, and the complex networks of cooperation, and imagine your world as a peaceful Eden, a lost utopia of egalitarian harmony. And in many ways, on many days, it is. But the social fabric, so carefully woven and maintained, is also fragile. And when it tears, the consequences are brutal. Your world has a darker side, a reality of violence and conflict that is as much a part of the human story as the instinct to care for the sick. While your clan may live in peace with its immediate neighbors, you know of other groups over the mountains, the others, who are spoken of in whispers as hostile and untrustworthy. The evidence for this violence is written directly onto the bones of the dead. A skeleton of a Neanderthal from a cave called Saint-Césaire will show a deep, healed gash on the top of his skull, a wound made by a sharp stone blade. He survived the attack, but it is a clear record of a violent encounter. Other skeletons from your era are found with the small, triangular flint tips of projectiles still embedded in their vertebrae or pelvises, undeniable proof that they were shot. Others show parry fractures, breaks in the bones of the forearm that are the classic defensive injury of someone trying to ward off a blow from a club. These are the individual, tragic stories of prehistoric murders and small-scale feuds. But sometimes, the violence was not small-scale at all. In a place called Jebel Sahaba, along the Nile River in what will one day be Sudan, archaeologists will uncover a cemetery dating to the very end of your long era. It contains the remains of 61 men, women, and children. When their bones are examined, a horrifying story emerges. 24 of them have projectile points, arrowheads and spear barbs, still embedded in their skeletons or lying within their body cavities. A man is found with 20 points inside him. A woman has a flint point in her elbow and another in her pelvis. 2 children were buried with them. This is not a series of individual murders over time. This is the aftermath of a massacre, or more likely, a series of violent, systematic raids. It is the earliest known evidence for organized, intergroup warfare, a grim foreshadowing of the darker path your descendants will often walk. And then there is the deepest taboo, the most unsettling possibility of all: cannibalism. The debate over prehistoric cannibalism is one of the most contentious in archaeology. Was it driven by hunger, ritual, or aggression? The evidence is often ambiguous, but sometimes it is chillingly clear. In a place called Garve's Cave in England, archaeologists will find the remains of several individuals, including a teenager and a young child, who lived about 15,000 years ago. Their bones tell a gruesome story. They are covered in the exact same kind of cut marks, made by the same kinds of flint tools, as the bones of the wild horses and deer that were butchered for food at the same site. The long bones have been systematically cracked open to get at the rich marrow inside. Even more unsettling, 3 of the skulls have been meticulously modified. They were carefully cleaned of all flesh, their bases broken off, and their edges shaped to create functional cups or bowls. This is not the work of starving people making a desperate meal. This is a complex, ritualized act, a way of treating the human dead that is utterly alien and deeply disturbing. So you must balance the picture. Life for you is not a constant, brutal war of all against all. The evidence for compassion and cooperation is overwhelming, but it is not a paradise. It is a world where a dispute with a neighboring clan can end with a spear in your back. It is a world where the line between reverence for the dead and the ritual use of their bones can be terrifyingly thin. It is a reality where the greatest danger to a human is not always a cave lion or a blizzard, but another human. This too is part of your story, the shadow that walks alongside the light. Amidst the harsh realities of a life defined by seasons, survival, and the occasional brutal conflict, something else is stirring. It is a new and uniquely human impulse, the desire to make a mark, to create meaning, to capture the world not just in the mind, but in a physical, tangible form. This is the birth of art, and it begins not in a grand gallery, but on the quiet, intimate canvas of everyday objects. You watch a young woman idly scratching a piece of smooth, discarded bone with the sharp tip of a flint. She is not making a tool. She is carving a pattern, a series of intersecting diagonal lines, a chevron. It is a simple, abstract design, yet it is a monumental leap. It is the imposition of a human idea, a sense of order and rhythm, onto the raw material of the natural world. And then comes color. All around your camp, you see the color red. It is on the shafts of the spears, rubbed into the leather of a new tunic, and sometimes, during rituals, smeared on the skin of your people. It is the color of blood, the color of life, the color of fire. It comes from ochre, a soft iron ore that, when ground, produces a rich, vibrant and permanent pigment. For you, its use is second nature, a tradition passed down from time immemorial. But this tradition is ancient beyond your imagining. In a place called Blombos Cave, on the coast of what will one day be South Africa, archaeologists will find the remains of a 100,000-year-old artist's workshop. The discovery is astounding. They will find 2 large abalone shells, used as natural mixing bowls, still containing the dried, caked residue of a complex, deliberately formulated paint. They will analyze this residue and find it is a mixture of crushed red ochre, ground up animal bone as a filler, charcoal, and a liquid binder. This is not a primitive daubing of color. This is a recipe. It is the earliest known evidence of humans not just using a pigment, but manufacturing a true paint for a specific purpose. From these first abstract patterns and the application of color, a new desire emerges: to represent the world of the living. Matu, the old flint napper, is holding a small piece of soft, greasy soapstone. With a delicate flint blade, he is slowly, patiently carving a shape. As you watch, a human form begins to emerge from the stone. It is not a realistic, anatomically correct portrait. It is a figure with enormous, pendulous breasts, a swollen belly, and large, rounded hips. The head, by contrast, is small and featureless, little more than a knob. This is a Venus figurine, one of the most iconic and enigmatic art forms of your entire era. Similar figures, carved from stone, ivory, or bone, will be found scattered across the vast continent, from the Pyrenees to Siberia. The meaning of these famous figurines is one of the most enduring mysteries in prehistoric art. Are they fertility charms, meant to encourage the birth of children in a world with high infant mortality? Are they representations of a great mother goddess, the source of all life? One intriguing theory suggests they could be the first self-portraits, carved by pregnant women looking down at their own bodies, a perspective that would explain the exaggerated proportions of the torso and the foreshortened, barely visible feet. Every new discovery seems to deepen the debate rather than settle it, leaving these silent, powerful figures to guard their secrets. And finally, you realize that art in your world is not just something to be held or looked at. It is something to be worn. It is a part of you. The lead hunter, Kor, wears a necklace of pierced wolf teeth, a testament to his skill and courage. Your aunt wears a delicate string of tiny, shimmering seashells, each one a reminder of a long-distance trade and a connection to a world she has never seen. One of the young girls has a bracelet made of dozens of painstakingly carved and polished mammoth ivory beads. These are not mere decorations, they are statements. They communicate identity, status, kinship, and personal history. They are a silent language, telling the world who you are. This is art woven into the very fabric of your life, the first flowering of the human need for a world that is not just survivable, but also beautiful. The small, personal art of the camp is only one half of your creative world. There is another, older, and far more mysterious tradition. It does not take place in the familiar light of the sun or the comforting glow of the hearth. It happens in the deep, absolute darkness, in the belly of the earth. A few days after the hunt, a small, select group from your clan, including one of the elders and a pair of younger apprentices, prepares for a special journey. They are not going hunting or gathering. They are going to a place of power. They are going to the Painted Cave. The entrance is a small, unremarkable fissure at the base of a limestone cliff, a place you would easily overlook. You know from the stories of your elders that this is not a place to live. The floor is damp, there is no source of water, and the air is still and dead. Archaeological evidence will confirm this. The great painted caves like Lascaux, Chauvet, and Altamira show no signs of long-term habitation. They were not homes. They were sanctuaries, destinations for a pilgrimage into another world. To enter is to leave the familiar world of the living behind. You crawl on your belly through a tight, narrow passage, the cold stone pressing in on all sides. Then the tunnel opens up, and you can stand. You are in a vast, silent chamber, a space of profound and total blackness. Now your most important tool is brought to life. It is a lamp, a shallow, bowl-like piece of sandstone, filled with rendered bison fat, with a wick made of twisted moss. The elder strikes a spark with flint and pyrite, and a small, steady flame flickers into existence. The light it casts is weak, fragile, and precious. It pushes back the suffocating darkness, but only for a few feet in every direction. The group lights a few more lamps, and with these tiny, moving islands of light, you begin your descent into the underworld. The artists have come prepared. They carry their supplies in leather pouches. There are lumps of charcoal from the fire for making black lines, and powders of red, yellow, and even purple-black manganese, all carefully mined and prepared beforehand. As binders, they will use what is available: cave water, animal fat, or even their own saliva. Their brushes are tufts of horsehair tied to a twig. They have pads of moss for dabbing and smearing color. And they have one other ingenious tool: a hollow bird bone. They will use this as a primitive airbrush, putting powdered pigment in their mouth and spraying it through the bone to create a fine, misted effect. The same technique used to create the iconic hand stencils that adorn the walls of so many caves. As you move deeper into the cave system, from chamber to chamber, the art is revealed. The walls are a flowing, breathtaking tapestry of the animal world. Great herds of wild horses gallop across the ceiling. A line of massive, shaggy-maned bison, their humps powerful and their beards rendered in exquisite detail, seem to charge out of a recess in the rock. A pair of woolly rhinos face off, and in a deeper chamber, a pride of cave lions, depicted without manes and with a subtle, menacing grace, seem to be stalking you from the shadows. The skill is astonishing, the naturalism profound. But what is most striking is what is missing. There are almost no paintings of people, and when a human form does appear, it is a strange, simplistic stick figure, a ghost in a world of solid, vibrant animals. But to truly understand this place, you must understand the experience. The air is cold and utterly still. The only sound is the soft padding of your own feet, and the slow, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water seeping through the limestone, a sound that has marked the passage of time here for millennia. The flickering, unstable light from your fat lamp is the key. As you move the lamp, the shadows dance and shift. The natural curves and bulges of the cave wall, so expertly used by the artists, make the animals' flanks seem to heave, their legs seem to move. The great bison is not a flat painting. It is a living, breathing spirit in the rock. It is a magical, terrifying, and deeply immersive experience. You are not in a gallery, looking at pictures of animals. You are in another reality, a spirit world made manifest, where the boundary between rock and flesh, life and image, has dissolved in the flickering darkness. You stand in the great hall of the cave, bathed in the soft, flickering glow of the tallow lamp, and you are confronted with the deepest question this art has to offer. Why? Why did your ancestors feel compelled to descend into this dangerous, lifeless darkness and populate it with these magnificent, silent beasts? The purpose of this deep cave sanctuary is perhaps the greatest debate in all of prehistoric studies, a mystery that will echo for tens of thousands of years. As you gaze at the powerful, flowing lines of a great bull, its horns lowered as if to charge, you consider the most straightforward explanation, the theory of hunting magic. Perhaps it is a form of prayer, a plea to the spirit of the animal. Or maybe it is more direct than that, a kind of sympathetic magic. By capturing the image of the bison, by rendering its form and its spirit on the wall, you gain a kind of power over it. By painting it, you ensure a successful hunt. This idea seems to be supported by some of the images you see. In one corner, a horse is depicted with several spear-like lines sticking into its flank. It is an image of a successful kill, a hoped-for future made real in pigment on the rock. It is a powerful and intuitive idea. To capture the image is to ensure the capture of the flesh. For much of the 20th century, this will be the dominant theory, a simple and satisfying explanation for a complex phenomenon. But as you look closer, this theory starts to fray. The animals you paint with such reverence are not always the animals you eat most often. Here there are dozens of paintings of cave lions and rhinos, animals you rarely, if ever, hunt. And what about the strange geometric signs that litter the walls? The rows of dots, the grids, the strange feathered shapes. These have no place in a simple hunting ritual. This leads you to a deeper, more profound possibility, that this cave is not a hunting lodge, but a temple. It is a membrane between your world and another, more powerful reality, the spirit world. In this view, the artists are not just hunters wishing for luck. They are shamans, spiritual specialists, individuals who have the ability to travel between these worlds. They come to this deep, silent, and disorienting place to enter a trance, perhaps aided by the rhythmic drumming and chanting that echoes so powerfully off the walls. The geometric signs may be the first things they see, the entoptic phenomena that flash in the mind's eye during an altered state of consciousness. And the animals are the powerful spirits they encounter on their journey through the spirit world. The cave wall itself is a veil, and by painting the spirit animal onto its surface, the shaman is drawing its power out of the other world and into your own. The handprints you see, both as stencils and as positive prints, are not a signature. They are a point of contact, a way of touching the veil, of feeling the power that pulses just beyond the surface of the rock. Or perhaps it is something else entirely. You move to a different wall, a vast, complex panel where horses, bison, and strange bear-like creatures are all intermingled with rows of black dots and abstract symbols. Perhaps this is not a collection of individual images at all, but a single complex narrative. It could be a story, a mythogram that recounts the creation of the world or the origin story of your clan. Maybe it is a history, a record of a great hunt or a catastrophic flood from a generation ago. Some in the far future will even theorize that the dots and animals are a form of celestial map, a prehistoric astronomical chart tracking the phases of the moon or the movement of key constellations. It is a language, but you have lost the dictionary. You can see the sentences, but you can no longer read the words. In the end, you are left with the profound and beautiful silence of the mystery itself. Hunting magic, shamanism, storytelling, astronomy. Perhaps all of these theories are true at different times in different caves. Or perhaps the real reason is something so deeply embedded in your Paleolithic worldview that your distant descendants, living in their world of metal and light, will never be able to fully grasp it. The enduring power of this place is not that it gives you answers, but that it asks you the most human question of all. A question that echoes across the immense gulf of time. What does this mean? You stand in the deepest, most grandly decorated chamber of the cave, what future generations might call the sanctuary. The painted bulls seem to float on the walls in the wavering lamplight. The silence is so profound it feels like a physical presence. Then the elder who led you here takes a deep breath, and the silence is broken. He begins to chant. It is not a song with words, but a low, rhythmic, guttural sound that seems to come from the very center of his being. And in this space, his voice is transformed. The sound hits the limestone walls and ceiling and comes back to you, amplified, layered, and resonant. The chamber acts like a natural cathedral, the echoes of his single voice creating the illusion of a ghostly choir. This is no accident. You are in a place chosen not only for its visual properties, but for its sound. Modern researchers, a new breed of scientists called archaeoacousticians, will one day bring sophisticated sound recording equipment into these very caves. They will map their acoustic properties and make a startling discovery. There is a powerful and undeniable correlation between the locations with the most elaborate paintings and the chambers with the most resonant, reverberant, and unusual sound qualities. The art was not meant to be viewed in respectful silence. It was created to be activated by sound, to be part of a multi-sensory, immersive ritual where sight and sound would merge into a single, overwhelming experience. As the elder's chant establishes a deep, droning rhythm, one of the other members of your small group brings out an object from a soft leather pouch. It is a flute, exquisitely crafted from the hollow wing bone of a griffon vulture. It is about the length of your forearm, pale and polished smooth from years of use, with 5 precisely drilled finger holes along its length. This is not a hypothetical object. It is a reality. In the caves of the Swabian Jura in Germany, archaeologists will unearth several such instruments, some made of bird bone, others painstakingly carved from 2 hollowed-out halves of mammoth ivory and sealed together. Dated to more than 40,000 years ago, these flutes are the oldest undisputed musical instruments in the entire world, a stunning testament to the antiquity of your musical traditions. The player raises the flute to his lips, and a new sound joins the chant. It is a high, clear, ethereal tone, a sound that cuts through the base of the chant and soars up to the vaulted ceiling. The notes are complex, capable of carrying a sophisticated melody. Musicologists of the future will debate the origins of music. Did it spring from the melodic cadence of early language, or did it evolve separately as a tool for creating social cohesion? As you listen to the interplay between the deep human voice and the high, bird-like call of the flute, it feels like both are true, a conversation between the earth and the sky. But the music is not yet complete. The final element is rhythm. The elder's apprentice picks up a heavy, smoothed piece of reindeer bone. He moves to a corner of the chamber where a series of thin, elegant stalactites hang from the ceiling like stone icicles. He taps the first one gently, and it produces a clear, bell-like tone. He taps another, and it rings with a different, deeper note. He begins to play them, a simple percussive melody on this natural lithophone, the sound sharp and crystalline against the drone of the chant and the melody of the flute. It is entirely possible, even likely, that you also have drums. Animal hides stretched tight over a wooden frame, but their organic nature means they will never survive to be found. But here, in this moment, you do not need them. You have created a complex, layered, and deeply hypnotic symphony, a soundscape that fills the sacred space, animates the painted animals, and seems to shake the very foundations of the rock. You are not just looking at art, you are participating in its magic. You have returned from the deep cave, your mind still echoing with the strange music and the sight of the spirit animals floating in the darkness. That journey, undertaken by a select few, now becomes a story for the many. In the evenings that follow, the clan gathers tightly around the central hearth, and the elder who was your guide in the cave becomes the storyteller. In your world without writing, his mind is a library, his memory a sacred archive. The oral tradition is not mere entertainment. It is the central pillar of your culture, the primary technology for transmitting history, science, law, and morality from one generation to the next. Tonight, he is recounting the journey into the earth, his voice low and hypnotic, his hands shaping the darkness into the narrow passage and the vast, silent chambers. He describes the flickering lamps, the smell of the damp rock, and the moment the great bulls first appeared on the walls. The children listen with wide, unblinking eyes, their imaginations painting the scenes he describes. But this is just one story in a vast and ancient repertoire. On other nights, the stories are different. Sometimes they are tales of heroic hunts, like the story of the recent bison kill, which has already been polished and mythologized, its heroes growing slightly larger and more courageous with each telling. Sometimes the stories reach back into the deep time, to the age of the first ancestors. These are your creation myths, You hear the tale of how the world was once a flat, dark plain until the great mammoth walked across it, carving the river valleys with its immense tusks and letting the water flow. You learn of the first woman who captured the sun in a woven bag and released it into the sky. You hear about the trickster, Raven, who stole fire from the selfish spirits of the underworld and gave it to humanity. These stories explain the world, giving it meaning and order. They are your science and your religion, woven together into a single, seamless narrative. And many of the stories are practical, cautionary tales that encode vital survival information. The storyteller tells a chilling tale of a young hunter who, filled with arrogance after a successful kill, went out alone and did not respect the signs of the weather. He was caught in a sudden blizzard, and his frozen body was not found until the spring thaw. The children shiver, but they are learning a crucial lesson. Respect the world, listen to the wisdom of your elders, and never let pride cloud your judgment. These narratives are a sophisticated data storage system. Cognitive scientists of the future will demonstrate that the human brain is hardwired to remember information far more effectively when it is embedded in a story. You are using the natural architecture of your own minds to create a robust, error-correcting, and highly memorable encyclopedia of everything you need to know to survive. As the elder speaks, his face animated in the warm light, you look around the hut. The fire in the center is the only source of light, and it throws huge, distorted shadows that dance and leap across the curved walls of mammoth bone. The storyteller's own shadow looms behind him, a giant, gesticulating figure that seems to act out the story as he tells it. This, right here, is your television, your cinema, your internet. It is the focal point of your collective imagination, a flickering screen onto which you project your deepest fears, your greatest hopes, and your entire understanding of the cosmos. The stories told around this fire build your world, populate it with heroes and monsters, and teach you your place within it. The last words of the story hang in the smoky air, and a contented silence falls over the clan, a community bound together not just by blood and hardship, but by the shared magic of a story well told. The stories told around your fire do more than just build your immediate world. They connect you to a much deeper and more epic narrative. The story of your clan's journey to this particular river valley is just one chapter in the greatest story of exploration ever told. The story of how your species, born in the savannas of a single continent, came to inhabit every corner of the entire planet. You are the descendants of the first explorers, the pioneers who walked out of Africa and into a world no human had ever seen before. This was not a single grand expedition with maps and a clear destination. It was a slow, multi-generational creep, a relentless expansion that unfolded over tens of thousands of years, pushing the boundaries of the known world one valley, one river, one coastline at a time. But how did you do it? How did you navigate a nameless, roadless world without a compass, without a sextant, without a single written map? You did it by reading the most detailed and reliable map of all, the world itself. You carry a compass in your head. You know that at midday, the sun is always in the south, and that the shadows it casts can give you a true line to the north. At night, you have the stars. You know the star that never moves, the one around which all the others pivot, and you use it to orient yourself in the vast, dark landscape. Your understanding of the heavens may be woven into myth and story, but its practical application is pure, functional science. You read the land with an intimacy your descendants will find almost impossible to comprehend. You can tell the direction of the prevailing winds by looking at the sculpted shapes of snowdrifts, or the way trees are bent and shaped. You follow the great migration routes of the reindeer and the mammoth, knowing that these animals have an innate sense for the most efficient and safest paths through the landscape. Paths that will lead you through mountain passes and to reliable water sources. This knowledge is encoded in your stories and your songs. The epic tale of an ancestor's journey is not just a story. It is a set of directions, a verbal map where each landmark corresponds to a verse, and the rhythm of the song dictates the pace of the journey. The most stunning evidence of your navigational prowess lies far to the south, on a continent that exists only in the deepest, most foundational stories of your species. To reach the land that will be called Australia, your ancestors had to do more than just walk. Even at the height of the Ice Age, when sea levels were at their lowest, the journey from Asia required a series of deliberate sea crossings. At least one of these crossings would have been over 100 kilometers of open ocean, a voyage where the destination was completely invisible from the starting point. They set out, on rafts or simple boats, into a vast, empty sea, guided only by the stars, the currents, and their faith in a story that told of land beyond the horizon. The fact that people first arrived in Australia at least 65,000 years ago is the irrefutable proof that you were not just the world's greatest terrestrial explorers, but also its first blue water sailors. A beautiful echo of this ancient navigational skill will survive into the modern world in the traditions of indigenous Australians. They navigate their vast, often featureless continent using what they call songlines, or dreaming tracks. A songline is a narrative, a song that describes the journey of a creator being in the dream time. As the ancestor travels, they bring the landscape into existence through their song. The lyrics of the song act as a mnemonic map. Each verse, each line, each word corresponds to a specific landmark: a rock, a waterhole, a bend in a river. By singing the song, a traveler can navigate with perfect accuracy across hundreds of kilometers of unfamiliar territory. It is a system of navigation, history, and spirituality all woven into one. It is a living window into the past, a glimpse of the sophisticated mental and cultural tools you used to turn a terrifying, unknown planet into a human home. Your ability to navigate and populate the globe is all the more remarkable when you consider the world you were doing it in. The term Ice Age is a deceptively simple name for the environment that shaped your species. You are living in the Pleistocene, an epoch of dramatic and often violent climate swings. For tens of thousands of years at a time, the planet's thermostat is turned down, and the ice expands. At the peak of the last glaciation, a time your descendants will call the last glacial maximum, the world is almost unrecognizable. Imagine a sheet of ice, 3 kilometers thick, covering all of Canada and the northern United States. Imagine another one burying Scandinavia, Britain, and northern Europe under a frozen crust. These are not static mountain glaciers. They are continent-sized rivers of ice, so heavy they press the very crust of the earth down into the mantle. The amount of the world's water locked up in these ice sheets causes sea levels to drop by over 100 meters, exposing vast new coastlines and creating land bridges between continents. The world is also incredibly dry and windy. Persistent, brutal winds blow off the faces of the great glaciers, picking up billions of tons of fine, glacial ground silt. and creating colossal, globe-spanning dust storms that turn the sky a hazy, pale white for months on end. This is the world you not only survived, but mastered. Your survival is a testament to your single greatest trait: adaptability. You are not the strongest, fastest, or toughest animal on the planet, but you are the most flexible. Faced with the life-crushing cold, you did not simply endure it. You engineered your own portable, tropical microclimate. Using the bone needle, you created sophisticated, layered clothing that trapped your body heat, allowing you to function in temperatures that would otherwise freeze you solid in minutes. You built insulated homes, like your mammoth bone shelter, that could withstand the howling glacial winds. As you spread across the globe, you adapted your toolkit and your strategies to a dizzying array of new environments. In the vast, open grasslands of the Mammoth Steppe, you perfected the long-range hunting techniques needed to bring down the great herds. When you moved into the dense woodlands of post-glacial Europe, you developed new tools like the axe to manage the forest environment. Your ultimate adaptation was the complex, creative, and forward-planning mind that allowed you to solve these new problems. Your ability to preserve food, to communicate complex ideas, and to pass that knowledge on to your children was your true competitive edge. And yet, you are living at the end of an era. The great beasts that have dominated the landscape for 1,000,000 years, the mammoths, the woolly rhinos, the cave lions, the giant ground sloths, are about to vanish forever. The cause of this great quaternary extinction event will become one of the most heated debates in all of science. Was it the climate? As the world warmed rapidly at the end of the Ice Age, the vast, cold grasslands they depended on shrank, replaced by forests and wetlands. Or was it you? The overkill hypothesis will argue that the arrival of a new, hyper-efficient predator armed with the atlatl and a highly organized hunting strategy was more than these slow-to-reproduce giants could handle. The most likely answer is a brutal combination of the two. You were the final, deadly pressure on animal populations that were already struggling to adapt to a rapidly changing world. The precariousness of your own existence is a story written in your very genes. Looking back into the deep past, geneticists will discover evidence of a catastrophic event that happened around 74,000 years ago, the eruption of the Toba supervolcano in Sumatra. This event plunged the world into a volcanic winter that may have lasted for a decade, decimating plant and animal life. It is believed that this catastrophe created a genetic bottleneck, reducing the entire population of Homo sapiens on Earth to perhaps as few as 3,000 individuals. Your entire species was on the brink of extinction. The fact that you are here at all is a testament to the unimaginable resilience of that tiny, desperate band of survivors from whom all modern humans are descended. You are the children of the tough, the lucky, and the adaptable. After all this, after the hunts and the hardships, the artistry and the innovations, the most profound question remains. What was it like inside your head? What was the shape of your consciousness? The attempt to reconstruct a Paleolithic mind is one of the most speculative and fascinating areas of archaeology, a journey into a truly foreign country. The physical evidence is clear. The brain inside your skull is anatomically identical to the brain of a human living in the 21st century. The hardware is the same, but the software, the cultural and cognitive operating system running on that hardware, is profoundly different. Your concept of time, for instance, is not a straight, unspooling line, a relentless arrow of progress pointing towards an ever more complex future. Your time is a circle. It is the great, repeating wheel of the seasons. You know that the bitter cold of winter will always, eventually, give way to the new life of spring. You know the salmon will return to the rivers, the reindeer will migrate south, and the sun will climb higher in the sky, just as they always have. Your life is not a story of linear progression. It is one of cyclical renewal. The past is not gone. It is coiled within the present. Your ancestors are not distant historical figures. Their spirits are an active presence in the landscape, their stories shaping your every decision. The future is not a realm of infinite unknown possibilities. It is expected to be another turn of the great wheel. And your conception of the world itself is fundamentally different. You live in a world that is entirely, vibrantly alive. This worldview, which your descendants will label animism, is not a quaint superstition. It is the logical and coherent philosophy of your time. You do not see a sharp division between the world of living subjects, like humans, and inert objects, like rocks or water. For you, everything is a person. The river you drink from is a person, with its own moods and intentions. The flint nodule that Matu so carefully shapes is a person, with a spirit that must be respected to fracture correctly. The wind, the forest, the mountains, all are sentient, all are aware. The animals you hunt are the most important of these other than human persons. A bison is not a mindless beast, a simple resource to be exploited. It is a member of the powerful bison people. When you hunt, you are not a master dominating a resource. You are a diplomat, a petitioner, engaging in a complex and often dangerous negotiation between your people and theirs. You must show respect, perform the correct rituals, and kill cleanly, because the spirit of the bison will report back to its people. If you are wasteful or disrespectful, the bison people may be offended and withhold themselves from you in the future, bringing starvation to your clan. This worldview places you not above or outside of nature, but deeply, inextricably within it. You are one member of a vast and complex community of intelligent, communicating beings. This, then, is the world inside your head, a cyclical, living, and deeply social cosmos. And yet, for all its differences, the cognitive toolkit you are using to navigate this world is the direct inheritance you will pass down to all your descendants. The ability to plan for the future, to preserve the bounty of today for the needs of tomorrow. The capacity for deep cooperation that allows your small, weak species to bring down giants. The spark of innovation that turns a rock into a spear point and a bird bone into a flute. And above all, the power of symbolic thought that allows you to create language, art, and a shared understanding of your place in the universe. These fundamental pillars of the human mind were not invented in cities or laboratories. They were forged here, in the crucible of the Ice Age, perfected over 1 million years of trial and error. The entire glittering, complex edifice of modern civilization is built upon the cognitive foundation that you, a hunter, a gatherer, an artist, and a philosopher, are cementing right now, sitting by a flickering fire in the heart of a long-vanished world. The great wheel of time, which has turned in a familiar cyclical rhythm for your entire life, is beginning to shudder. The change is slow at first, almost imperceptible. A winter that is not quite as bone-crushingly cold as the ones the elders remember. A spring that arrives a little earlier, with strange new flowers pushing up through the soil. The summers are wetter, the air heavier. You do not know it, but you are standing at the precipice of the greatest climate shift your species has ever endured. The world of the Ice Age, the only world your people have ever known, is beginning to die. The great glaciers to the north, those continent-sized mountains of ice, are bleeding. Every summer, vast, milky torrents of meltwater pour from their snouts, choking the rivers and turning the plains into marshland. The sea, which for generations has been a distant rumor on the horizon, begins to creep inwards, swallowing the low-lying coastal plains where your ancestors once hunted. The world is getting warmer, and with the warmth comes a profound and unstoppable transformation of the landscape. The mammoth steppe, that endless cold, dry grassland that was the foundation of your entire world, is vanishing. From the south, an army of trees is advancing. First hardy birch and pine, and then, as the climate mellows, the great oaks and elms. The open plains are being replaced by dense, closed canopy forests. This new forested world is a disaster for the great herds. The mammoths, the woolly rhinos, and the steppe bison, all adapted for a diet of cold weather grasses, find their pastures shrinking year by year. They are replaced by new kinds of animals: the shy red deer, the solitary wild boar, the nimble roe deer. These are creatures of the forest, and they do not gather in vast, predictable herds. The old ways of hunting are becoming obsolete. Your masterpiece of a weapon, the atlatl, is a long-range tool designed for open country. It is clumsy and ineffective in the dense, claustrophobic woods. The grand, communal hunt that could feed the clan for a month is becoming a thing of the past. Your entire way of life, so perfectly and exquisitely adapted to the Ice Age world, is now a crisis of over-specialization. But you are, above all else, adaptable. You innovate. Your descendants, the people of the new age your scholars will call the Mesolithic, develop a new toolkit for this new world. They invent the bow and arrow, a weapon perfectly suited to the silent, stealthy, close-range hunting that the forest demands. They perfect the creation of microliths, tiny, razor-sharp blades of flint that can be set into a wooden handle to create a variety of new, composite tools. And in some of the most fertile corners of the world, in the great river valleys of the Near East, your descendants will turn their intense local focus to the wild grasses that grow there in abundance. They will learn their cycles, protect them from other animals, and begin to select and replant the seeds from the most productive plants. Without knowing it, they are taking the first fateful steps on a new path. They are beginning to cultivate. They are beginning to domesticate. The origins of agriculture are one of the most debated topics in history. Was it a brilliant invention, a deliberate step on the road to progress? Or was it, as some have argued, the worst mistake in the history of the human race, a trap that led to a life of monotonous labor, social inequality, and epidemic disease? Whatever the reason, the seeds of this new world are being sown, and with them, the end of the long 2-million-year-old dream of the hunter-gatherer. The world you have walked through tonight, a world of deep time, of spirit animals, of vast open spaces, and the freedom to roam them, is fading into the twilight. And so, your long day in the Ice Age comes to a gentle close. The story of that ancient world, a world both profoundly alien and deeply, recognizably human, fades back into the soft echoes of deep time. The flickering light of the hearth, which held the great darkness at bay, now softens to a warm and gentle glow, its light illuminating a world of memory, a world that exists now only in the stories we tell. You can let go of the chill of the glacier and the weight of the hunter's spear, and feel instead the familiar comfort of your own bed, the gentle weight of your own blanket. That ancient past is not truly gone, for its legacy is written in our own DNA, in our shared capacity for creativity, in our deep-seated need for community, and in the timeless stories that we still tell each other in the dark. The world has changed, but the human heart has not. And now there is nothing left to do but to let the last images of that distant time dissolve, like smoke rising from a dying fire, and to drift into the peaceful, quiet darkness of your own comfortable and well-deserved sleep.